Chapter 147 NT. Thanks Jakub Stepniowski, Poland, for sponsoring Chapter 147. Yet another monster chapter, but more fun people winking face and joy. Chapter 147. Rescue indeed, it was really Hua Menghan. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes because he did not expect to see Hua Menghan, and he quickly realized that Hua Menghan actually turned out to be a seed level core disciple. No wonder she had so much face and was able to mediate between Qianyu faction and senior factions by sending Jing Yan'an. These days, one thing after another came up, and Yi Shiwen didn't have time to express his gratitude to her. But now he unexpectedly met her here in Masha territory. Besides Hua Menghan, Yi Shiwen also saw a few familiar people whom he had already met before, and they were none other than Hu Yanghang and Jing Yan'an. It was not a surprise that they were also seed level core disciples, and in addition to the two of them, there was a beautiful girl who appeared to be of same age as Hua Menghan. In a bright long skirt, her posture was swaying as the sword was dancing in her hand, and each time her sword moved, a great devil was beheaded. There was also a grandiose man among them. His broadsword was dancing and giving rise to fierce winds, and these devils simply had no way to come close to his body. At this time, although they had been besieged by the great devil army, but the situation was not really too dangerous. After all these 5 masters were considered elites among the elites, and each one of them possessed outstanding strength, far more than the core disciples at the same cultivation level, not to mention. Even if these great devils were flagitious and incomparably brutal and possessed high cultivation levels, but they were still considered as cannon fodder level existence in the devil race, and very few of them had practiced power techniques, and many of which were crude techniques, so it was certain that they were not the opponents of Hua Menghan and other seed level core disciples. There was a difference of heaven and earth between the two sides when martial arts practice was taken into consideration. This was the difference between the elites and the masses. However, if the two sides were to fight a prolonged battle, then the strength of Hua Menghan and the others would soon be consumed, because in this situation, the bigger army implied greater might even if the great devils were not elites, because the size of army could be increased, but the fighting strength of these elites couldn't be enhanced. However, after the great devil commander joined the battle, Hua Menghan and other core disciples soon fell under the wind. He was obviously stronger than the master of Xiantian Great Realm and should have entered half a step into the Truth Realm. And just by having the strength equivalent to a master of half-step Truth level, this great devil commander was dominating on these 5 core seed disciples who were apparently all in the Xiantian Great Realm. It was obvious that their combined strength was also inferior to the strength of great devil commander, causing them to suddenly fall under the wind. When Yi Shiwen saw the great devil commander, suddenly his blood started to boil up. This great devil commander was a half-step truth level existence, and looking at Yi Zaiwen's current strength, great devil commander was truly his opponent because right now, although Yi Shiwen was at the peak of Xiantian's 7th stage, but his fighting strength was equivalent to a master of half-step truth realm, which was far more than the strength of Xiantian great realm masters. In short, this great devil commander was the best opponent for him. This great devil commander should prove the best opponent at my current strength. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said, "Wait here and control the Tianyuan mirror. Do not let it release its restraining powers. I want to test my true strength. If Tianyuan mirror released its suppression, then perhaps the great devil commander would quickly die at the hands of Yi Shiwen. And right now, this wasn't Yi Zaiwen's main goal. No problem," Yi Emo said, although he would often help Yi Shiwen in suppressing those devils, so Yi Shiwen could easily behead them, but that was only a means to help in his fast growth. "Everybody withstand for a little longer. I have sent a distress signal, and soon someone should come to our rescue." Jing Yan'an exclaimed to raise the morale of other 5 disciples, but they were fighting silently because they were elites and understood to keep their minds calm and focused. Especially, Hua Menghan and the grandiose man with broadsword were collaborating to fight the great devil commander. but they were feeling enormous pressure and horrifying strength of a half-step true master, and it could be said that to a certain extent he already possessed some of the strength of a truth-level master. Even if two people were together fighting with him, they weren't the slightest relaxed. It was obvious that Great Devil Commander was more familiar with the art of war, and at this time this was also making them feel distressed and powerless in front of him. Then suddenly a long and loud howling sound came from far away, and it gradually came closer and closer. Moreover, it was so fast that in a blink of an eye it arrived at the scene, and one could guess the insane speed of the approaching person just from hearing the howling sound, which was simply like the lightning that arrived in the vicinity in a flash. Suddenly, a flash instantly crashed into the Great Devil Army, and even this drilled and experienced Great Devil Army was simply not the match of this blade light which simply pierced through them, collapsing one after another, and the weak Great Devils that came in the range of this attack instantly died or got severely wounded. "Who is that?" Great Devil Commander suddenly roared, then immediately stopped fighting with Huang Menghan and the Grandiose Man, because in his heart these humans did not pose a threat to him, and under his army's encirclement, these damn lowly humans would eventually have to die. The blade light crossed through the Great Devil Army and immediately and fiercely rushed toward the Great Devil Commander. Boom! A huge explosion occurred, and a mushroom cloud appeared on the spot. This was now the battle between two half-step true masters, although they only possessed a part of the total strength of a true master. But masters of Xiantian Great Realm weren't capable of producing such an atomic bomb-like explosion, and it was simply impossible for masters of Xiantian Ninth Peak. The flash of light dissipated and revealed the silhouette of a figure. When Hua Menghan saw this figure, a surprised look immediately appeared on her face, because that person was none other than Yi Shiwen. She never thought that in such a short amount of time, Yi Shiwen would actually become so formidable. She remembered that the first time she saw him, he was just at the Hotian realm, and at that time she felt grateful to him for saving her life. But she thought that it would end at this. After all, he was only a Hotian realm warrior, and even if he managed to step into the Xiantian realm in the future, it was still most unlikely that they would ever intersect each other's path in this lifetime. However, all of this changed in less than 1 year, when Yi Zaiwen's strength had a rapid development, and when she saw him again, he was already a master of the Xiantian realm and was also considered the leader of younger generation of his sub-school, and later, he also became the leader of new disciples. The second time, she heard about him when Qianyu faction was in trouble, and at that time, she used her influence to buy some time for Qianyu faction, but she did not hold any hope for them to win. She just wanted to do something to help Yi Shiwen, but not on a grand scale, otherwise it could lead to him becoming an eyesore in the eyes of a lot of people. But she did not expect that he would actually win the battle against Amo Han and lead to the smooth establishment of Qianyu faction, but she again received news about Yi Shiwen becoming the chief inner seed disciple. Moreover, this time, there was a recognition that could not be questioned or argued upon by anyone. Although now he was merely the chief inner seed disciple, but in a major sect like Yi Yuan school, becoming a chief was like a seat of honor, because even if he was only the chief of inner disciples, but this status could only be obtained by 1 in a million disciples and required both talent and formidable strength. This should be the third time she saw Yi Shiwen, but now he was no longer that skinny teenager whom she met the first time, and had actually grown up into a fine youth. The youth who once saved her life had just now rushed straight into the Great Devil Army. And not just that, he went straight for the Great Devil Commander, an existence that she and other masters couldn't take on together. This rapid transformation was simply unbelievable. The one who was more baffled than Hua Menghan was actually Hu Yanghang. He certainly remembered Yi Shiwen, but in his memory, Yi Shiwen was simply nothing and could only be regarded as a little guy, a nasty bug, and for him, so long as he wanted, crushing a petty bug like Yi Shiwen was very convenient. But now he couldn't believe his eyes when he saw that a bug like Yi Shiwen had actually grown so formidable. Immediately, a strong killing intent boiled up in his heart. An astonished look appeared on the face of Jing Yanen when he looked at the formidable figure of Yi Shiwen. In such a short time, the young boy who, at that time, had especially come forward to greet him, actually turned into such a fierce master? He was now sure that he was not wrong about Yi Zaiwen's future growth. Dark green clothes, that long blade, and a proud demeanor. In the end, just what kind of experience did he go through that caused his cultivation to increase to such outrageous proportions? Everyone was astonished at the sudden arrival of Yi Shiwen, but he didn't care and directly engaged in fighting with the great devil commander. Damn you, you lowly human! You dare to treat out great devil race as hunting objects. You are courting death! The great devil commander shouted in an angry voice, and his words seemed like they were thundering again and again, while an endless amount of mochi emerged out of the giant spear in his hands and instantly filled the entire surrounding space. Devil sweeps the universe! The endless amount of mochi transformed into countless spears made up of spurki, and seemed like hiding the sky and covering the earth, and swept straight towards Yi Shiwen. NT, Jitianbiri equals hiding the sky and covering the earth idiom, earth-shattering. The long blade flashed in the hand of Yi Shiwen, and a bright blade light was instantly chopped out, displaying the creative concept of Yi Zaiwen's blade skill, and it seemed as if a diagram of a round bright moon was descending and suppressing towards the great devil commander. Suddenly, along with a dazzling glare, Bladiki severely collided with the several spears. An energy wave spread in all directions like mighty ocean waves and completely swept away some of the great devil soldiers. In the frenzy of raging energy waves, these great devils simply turned into flying ashes. At that moment, standing in front of Yi Shiwen, the great devil commander felt a strange feeling from Yi Zaiwen's body, which suddenly increased his palpitations, although this feeling was very mild, but it made him feel very unpleasant, as if he was standing in front of Sovereign King. However, at this time, he had no time to think about why was he getting such a feeling, and suddenly shouted, "Damn human, go to hell!" Devil splits the vast sky. The giant spear danced in his hands, and a terrifying spurki spread in the sky, and it seemed as if it was completely splitting the atmosphere, and this sight was quite overwhelming. To be continued. NT, important explanation about Yi Zaiwen's strength before you read future chapters, especially for those who are raising doubts in various forums about Yi Zaiwen's apparently unexplained OP-ness. Raise these doubts here. I would gladly explain. It's my duty as MGS's current and only translator. Yi Shiwen is an anomaly who is only at the peak of Xiantian's 7th peak in this chapter, but he possesses energy equivalent to the masters of half-step truth realm because he started amassing energy in advance from the time when he saved Hua Menghan and got insights about transforming higher level forms of energy, even though his body, inner realm, was at lower level, all thanks to the mysterious space. But you must be thinking he is at a lower realm, so how can he fight with masters 2 or sometimes 3 levels above him? That's because only his body, inner realm, is at lower level the energy content, energy quality, and energy quantity in his body is equivalent to the masters of higher levels. But that should explode his body, right? Don't forget he has practiced tyrant body technique, which turned his body into that of an ancient tyrant. So his body is so strong and tough that it can contain higher level energy and in larger amounts. Basically, thanks to tyrant body technique, even if his body is at Xiantian's 7th peak, but its strength and toughness equals bodies of the masters of half-step truth realm. This is the reason why in the last chapter, Yi Shiwen also practiced the tyrant body technique to 3rd layer to increase the toughness of his body in order to sustain and contain half-step truth level energy. He is OP because of mysterious space and tyrant body technique. More doubts? Ask. Chapter 148. NT. Monday's regular release. Sorry guys, I didn't get time to release a regular chapter on Sunday. I will try to release one this week. Also, a warning for you all, this chapter and chapter 149 are both cliffhangers. I was planning to release 148 to 150 at once, but I got busy on Monday and readers got impatient, so here's the secret. I have translated the last parts of this chapter in a lecture class on a request from a reader faced with dung. I may not be able to release next 2 chapters since I need to be really sneaky for that haha if I was caught by an elder ahem. Professor then, enjoy! Laughing face, chapter 148. Great Devil Commander beheaded. Devil splits the vast sky. The giant spear danced in his hands, and a terrifying spurky spread in the sky, and it seemed as if it was completely splitting the atmosphere and blotting the sky. This sight was quite overwhelming. This spurky was incomparably terrifying and produced a sharp, piercing sound, as if all other sounds had completely vanished from the atmosphere, leaving only the dreadful sound of spears rushing through the sky. NT, unparalleled equals incomparable. Full moon beheader! Yi Xuan shouted, and suddenly his appearance looked like the lightning itself, and using just his arm, he instantly chopped out Bladiki, which instantly turned into a diagram of a full moon and pressed down from above, just like the Mount Tai. The layer upon layer of terrifying, spurky, rushed, penetrating through the space, and instantly stabbed into the diagram of full moon. The full moon suddenly exuded endless amount of moonlight and immediately flushed into the spurky, which was completely obliterated by the enormous might of bright moonlight. This was no moonlight. It was actually Yi Zaiwen's frightening Bladiki. He had managed to move 1 step further and integrated the creative concept with his Bladiki, and as far as his opponents were concerned, this attack was simply like a road roller-like existence, compared with Yi Zaiwen's former pure creative concept. The might of this attack was simple, unimaginable, and it was hard to determine how much stronger it had actually become. After completely obliterating the spurky, Yi Xuan did not stop and took out his long blade and instantly chopped out a terrifying Bladiki. The Bladiki instantly rushed towards the great Devil Commander, and it seemed as if it was tearing the sky of Masha territory and would split him into 2 halves any moment. Lowly human! The great Devil Commander shouted, and his voice resounded like a loud explosion, and giant spear in the hands instantly sketched the outline of devilish sun in the void, which then released dark and horrifying rays of light towards the Bladiki of Yi Xuan. Boom! Layer upon layer of shock waves swept across in all directions when the spear attack clashed maliciously against the blade attack of Yi Xuan. Bang! 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 Both of them felt a wave of horrifyingly massive strength from the clash of their attacks and withdrew several steps back, leaving deep footprints on the ground. On the side of Yi Xuan, when a group of great devils saw that Yi Xuan had been repulsed, they thought to take advantage of this opportunity and immediately advanced towards him while shrieking strangely, as if to rip him to shreds. Yi Xuan waved the long blade, and a huge blade light swept out which rushed towards several great devils and instantly chopped them into 2 halves, while some of them instantly turned into minced meat. Abominable human! When great Devil Commander saw that several of his devil men were instantly killed by Yi Xuan, he suddenly roared out of anger and frustration. This was a deadly duel, not just between 2 masters, but between 2 sides, because the outcome of this duel affected the situation of both sides. After all, the survival of the team of Yi Yuan School's Seed Corps disciples, or the Great Devil Army, depended on this duel. One was the commander of Great Devil Army, and his cultivation level was at the half-step truth level, which was almost equivalent to that of true masters. The other one was a fortuitous master, looking for adventure, but his fighting strength was also comparable to that of the masters of half-step truth realm. The collision between the 2 sides was destined to cause the heaven to fall and earth to shatter. The giant spear violently danced in the hands of Great Devil Commander, and produced sad and shrill howling sound, like the frightening shrieks and pitiful screams of devils. These pitiful screams belonged to the dead and were quite terrifying, filled with the lingering resentments of dead, and these resentments were attached at the tip of the spear, and as a result of this, the might of the spear didn't decrease. On the contrary, because of these screams and curses of the dead, the overall might of the spear increased by multiple folds, and made it very formidable. The existence of Spurky produced round after round of roaring sounds, and it seemed as if the whole world had suddenly changed. The sound of intermittent crying and pitiful screaming had spread everywhere. It was like the whole world was falling into the hell, which was truly terrifying. At this moment, his spear technique seemed to have reached a high degree of proficiency, close to perfection, indicating that great Devil Commander had practiced an authentic Modeo-based power technique. NT? Modeo equals devil arts, Wudao equals martial arts, Mo equals devil. Yishuin wasn't the slightest scared of this and maliciously chopped out an unstoppable blade light. In this battle, it could be said that Yishuin was completely unleashing his true strength and enjoying the battle to his heart's content. Each and every collision was setting off boundless shock waves in the air along with intermittent screams and cries. It was the great Devil Commander's spear attack of resentful souls, but was completely annihilated by Yi Shiwen and vanished from this world along with the suffering souls that soon disappeared as well. Each time the two sides clashed, the great devils present in the vicinity would be swept off their feet, but Yi Shiwen simply did not care, because even if more of these devils were dying, it was none of his concern, and even the great Devil Commander's eyes were blood-red and didn't seem to hold back and was fighting with all his might without caring about the lives of his subordinates. Those great devils quickly withdrew far away from these two, because the aftermath of their battle was really too terrifying. Once again, the blade and the spear fiercely clashed. Boom! Zhan Yuan was crazily raging within Yi Zaiwen's body. Tyrant body technique was also rapidly revolving inside his body and wrapping up a layer of golden light on his skin. When looked from afar, Yi Shiwen looked just like a golden god of war, while the Zhan Yuan had formed a shield and blocking off all the impacts from outside. There was a faint figure of coiling dragon, totally entrenched on Yi Zaiwen's body, and was emitting intense dragon chi. And even with his relentless attacks, the great Devil Commander was finding it very difficult to break through the protective barrier of coiling dragon on Yishuin. Yi Shiwen had already practiced Hidden Dragon rises from the abyss move of coiling dragon palm to the Acme level and reached its perfection. Moreover, the coiling dragon wrapped on his body was the true nemesis of devils. At a distant place, although great devils had temporarily spread around a little, but Hua Menghan and other disciples had joined forces and were sticking together to protect themselves, and were watching the fierce battle going on between Yi Shiwen and the great Devil Commander, which seemed to have reached a very intense stage. There were astonished looks in their eyes, and all of them were constantly exclaiming while witnessing this insane battle. Hu Yanghang was the only one among them who had a disdained look on his face and was perniciously looking at Yi Shiwen. He was jealous of Yi Shiwen, extremely jealous, to such an extent that it was making him unable to stay calm. NT, Hu Yanghang is the guy who is obviously jealous of Yi Shiwen, and the reason of this jealousy is waifu ahem, Hua Menghan. Hu Yanghang had sent 7 masters to intercept Yi Shiwen during assessment exam in Huanma territory, and he later sent young Marquis as well. In a place where no one else was looking, he pinched a secret technique under his sleeves and secretly sent a message from his summoning talisman, which then instantly departed towards the heaven. Humph, Yi Shiwen, I will see how you die. Damn human, today is the day of your death. The great Devil Commander said in a cold voice, and his voice was so cold and grim, it seemed as if it was emerging out of an ice house. Originally, the great Devil Commander always kept aloof, but he held an unusual hatred for humankind. Perhaps lower-level devils were not aware of this, but he was well aware of the fact that the situation of the devils living in Masha territory was no different than that of a bunch of pigs, raised by formidable humans to be slaughtered in order to hone the skills of disciples of their sect. This was extremely painful for him. In fact, the thing which was even greater than this pain was actually the great shame that the proud devil race had to bear in Masha territory. If his devil race managed to become strong, and their strength exceeded a certain extent, then they would be beheaded by the formidable humans who occasionally came inside Masha territory from time to time for inspection. He was scared that such a fate would ultimately befall him because he was a strong, great devil himself. For the devil race of Masha territory, those who managed to become formidable would eventually be killed by formidable humans, and those who were not strong would be beheaded by the disciples of those formidable humans. And this was going to be their fate for generations. And formidable humans equals sect elders. No, he would absolutely not allow such a fate to befall him. He would not become a stepping stone for these human disciples. He was an invincible devil. He must transcend this cage, then kill all humans and turn Zhenwu Jia into a breeding field for devil race. All these humans were damn. A terrifying machi flooded out of the entire body of Great Devil Commander. There was Deadki, also infused with his machi, and faint, ghostly shadows could clearly be seen condensed with the machi. And machi equals devilki. Deadki equals chi made up of the resentments of the dead. The complexion on the face of Great Devil Commander suddenly paled because he condensed a huge amount of his energy in this attack. One could hear the sad and shrill screams coming from the ghostly shadows condensed around the giant spear, and the endless amount of Deadki was sizzling and making noise. It seemed as if it was corroding the air itself, and then it instantly flew straight towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt that a terrifying spear machine was firmly locking on his body, followed by a surge of horrifying pressure which instantly released from the spear and pressured down on him. Yi Shiwen started to madly revolve tyrant body technique inside his body because he knew that this was definitely the last resort of this Great Devil Commander, and as long as he was able to block this move, there would be no way out for the Great Devil Commander. Yi Shiwen was not a recalcitrant. He instantly used Celestial Step and his figure shot forward, while his figure left after images, and he instantly vanished, but this time he suddenly discovered that the spear was closely following him. Yi Shiwen did not have the chance to dodge, so he immediately clenched his teeth and shouted loudly, "Hidden dragon rises from the abyss!" In an instant, endless amount of dragon chi completely surrounded his body, and his entire body suddenly disappeared inside the inexhaustible amount of dragon chi. A gigantic dragon, which was several meters long, immediately took shape and stretched out its claws and directly grasped toward that terrifying spear made up of Deadki. Boom! A terrible explosion occurred, and the terrifying spear was firmly grabbed in the claws of the incarnation of gigantic dragon, while a mutually intense ablation started between Dragon Chi and Deadki, which issued a buzzing sound, and this was an exceptionally fearful sight to witness. The spear filled with Deadki struggled in the grasp of that incarnation of the gigantic dragon, released by Yi Zaiwen's coiling dragon palm technique, and was directly broken into pieces in midair. Broken inch by inch. Poof! The Great Devil Commander screamed pitifully, spouted a mouthful of blood, while his burly stature swayed and slowly fell down on the ground. Devil die! Suddenly, a loud shout came from the sky, and while shaking the entire sky, a terrifying Bladiki instantly descended from the sky, and the Great Devil Commander was instantly split into two halves. At that time, his ability to resist had completely disappeared. After issuing that move, which was obviously his last resort, he had completely exhausted his strength and was directly cleft in two by Yi Shiwen. When Great Devil Commander was killed by Yi Shiwen, the Great Devil Army immediately aligned themselves in a formation and started to retreat while showing excellent discipline. Their retreat was definitely not like the act of escaping mob. Yi Shiwen, Huang Menghan, and other disciples did not want to pursue them. After all, the Great Devil Army was not defeated, only their commander was killed. However, Yi Shiwen didn't get time to relax because a loud shout suddenly arrived from far away. "Where is Yi Shiwen?" To be continued. And I have an idea. Since I don't want you people to send assassins after me for giving you a cliffhanger, I will do a real-time translation, which means I will start translating next chapter in the class itself and continue to update it paragraph by paragraph until it's completely done. If I stop updating, that means I was caught by the Elder and ninja mode on. Haha. Chapter 149. And thanks Jakub Stepniowski, Poland, and Andrea Jankowski, Germany, for sponsoring Chapter 149. And 100% done. Ninja mode worked sneak, sneak, translate, translate, face with tongue. Thank you, readers. Especially fellow engineer brothers for being with me all the time. Lecture was boring, but this sneaky translation was successful and fun. Chapter 149, Luo Clan's Dogs. Where is Yi Shiwen? A loud shout came from far away and gradually came nearer, and only in a while, 3 youths who had 25 or 26-year-old appearances arrived on the battlefield. One of them was a female with a radiant face like the moon itself. NT, Hua Rong Yua Mao equals face like the moon idiom. Another man had a medium build, looked ordinary but appeared to have a tolerant and steady bearing. The last one looked handsome and was wearing a magnificent robe. The cultivation levels of all 3 of them were extremely high and could not be underestimated. All of them had almost approached close to entering half a step into the truth realm, whereas the beautiful moon-faced woman was already a master of half-step truth realm, although her cultivation level was not as good as that of Yi Shiwen, but not far off either. After seeing this trio, Hua Menghan's complexion suddenly changed, and a look of unhappiness flashed on her face, especially after seeing the beautiful woman who was standing in the middle of the trio. Who is Yi Shiwen? The beautiful woman asked in a cold voice. Luo's senior sister apprentice. He is Yi Shiwen. From the crowd, Hu Yanghang suddenly stepped up and said while pointing towards Yi Shiwen. This immediately aroused discontented feelings in the hearts of Jing Yan'an, Hua Menghan, and other Core C disciples. It was Yi Shiwen who saved all of them a moment ago, but at this time Hu Yanghang didn't think twice before betraying him. They could tell that Hu Yanghang was a typical faker and not at all authentic. But when their gazes were directed towards Yi Shiwen, they knew in their hearts that this guy was really authentic. Now, they could not help but stay away from Hu Yanghang. In their hearts, they secretly decided that it was not worth to maintain a close and long-standing friendship with a guy like Hu Yanghang, because they couldn't trust him anymore, since he turned out to be a guy who might betray them as well. Hu Yanghang did have the slightest idea about other people's suddenly changed perception about him, because right now, the only thing remaining in his heart was envy and hatred for Yi Shiwen. Initially, Yi Ziwen's existence was nothing more than a bug in his eyes, but now he himself turned into a bug-like figure in front of Yi Shiwen, who actually became so fierce and formidable that he was simply not a match of Yi Shiwen at all. This stark contrast made him feel exceptionally uncomfortable. You are Yi Shiwen? Luo's senior sister apprentice looked coldly at Yi Shiwen and lightly said, I am. Who are you? Yi Shiwen looked at that Luo senior sister apprentice and said, while he could clearly see the ill intent in her eyes. Yi Shiwen also looked coldly at Luo's senior sister apprentice. Yi Shiwen, you have eyes but cannot see MT Tai, Hu Yanghang said in a complacent and triumphant manner. Shut up. Who do you think you are, daring to teach me? Yi Shiwen shouted in an angry voice and released sonic waves, which swept out towards Hu Yanghang like mighty ocean waves. The color of Hu Yanghang's face suddenly changed to purple, similar to the color of a pig's liver, and he immediately held his breath. You are courting death. Hu Yanghang was short of breath and suddenly shouted, but he simply forgot the performance of Yi Shiwen from a while back, that had completely left him in a stunned state. His fist blasted, and a terrifying Quan Jin rushed towards Yi Shiwen and rumbled maliciously. NT? Quan Jin equals fist strength. But at this time Yi Shiwen also moved, his figure suddenly swayed, and at the same time he also caught the Quan Jin in his hand and directly crushed it. In an instant, Yi Shiwen already arrived in front of Hu Yanghang, and using big profound hand, he instantly routed the Zhan Yuan present inside the body of Hu Yanghang, then grabbed his neck. Yi Ziwen's palm looked just like an iron hoop when it firmly clutched Hu Yanghang's neck, and he seemed just like a chicken, clutched in the claws of an eagle. Everyone present there suddenly reacted, but then they realized that Hu Yanghang was already in the grasp of Yi Shiwen. It happened so fast, it was simply like a miracle. No one could even see when it happened, because Hu Yanghang could not even use a single move to resist, and was immediately grabbed by Yi Xuan. Hu Yanghang's neck was in the firm grasp of Yi Xuan, while his whole body was being locked down by Yi Zaiwen's formidable Jinyuan. And due to that, he basically did not have any strength left to even move. His face suddenly flushed with shame. He couldn't breathe properly, he was mad, he just could not accept in his heart. How could Yi Xuan, an insect-like figure, become so formidable in so less time that he had actually been grabbed in Yi Zaiwen's clutches, simply like a trash? He hated this. He was anxious to kill Yi Xuan earlier. If only he had gotten rid of Yi Xuan earlier, then he would not be in such a situation. I have not gone to look for you, but you actually dared to come out on your own. You are just a trash who dares to plot against me again and again. Today you will pay the price. Yi Xuan sneered and said, "Stop!" Suddenly, Yi Xuan heard a loud shout of that beautiful woman surnamed Luo, directed at him, while she instantly shot an enormous breath, which locked on Yi Xuan, and the fluctuations in her martial arts instantly turned intense. Yi Xuan immediately pulled over Hu Yanghang's to stand in front of him to block the attack. Boom! A terrifying power maliciously rumbled into the body of Hu Yanghang. He screamed pitifully, and his body was covered with blood. His bones were broken. But at this instant, Yi Xuan quickly and secretly shot his palm at the top of his pubic region. Hu Yanghang's martial arts were directly wasted, and he immediately fainted and fell on the ground. "How dare you?" That charming woman shouted in an angry voice and viciously stared at Yi Xuan, while keeping a close eye on him. "You also saw it was not me who did this," Yi Xuan readily said in an indifferent tone, and threw fainted Hu Yanghang aside. "You!" The charming woman glared angrily at him and said, "Luo Fengyi, you sent your brother to kill me. If you have the ability, then try and do it yourself." At this time, Hua Menghan said, "Shut up, you slut. Do you think I cannot kill you? If it was not for giving face to master, you would have already died long ago." Luo Fengyi suddenly shouted, "Luo Fengyi, I am the closing disciple of head. This position is comparable to that of true disciples. You're just a trivial sect disciple. Do you think you can actually dare to defy your superiors?" Hua Menghan suddenly scowled and said in a serious tone, "What did you say?" Luo Fengyi glared at Hua Menghan with an apparent anger flashing in her round eyes. Yi Xuan finally understood that this woman was the elder sister of Luo Tian, the guy who was trying to kill Hua Menghan that day by poisoning her. Master is considering Luo Tian's death is insufficient. It's a pity that he has not vented his anger on your Luo clan. You are lucky." Hua Menghan said without the slightest yielding in her tone, "Venting anger on my Luo clan, just for you? My granduncle is a celestial elder of Yi Yuan School. My uncle is also an elder, and my brother is a true disciple who will also take over the position of head of our clan in the future. Do you still think you can mess with our Luo clan?" Luo Fengyi shouted in an angry voice. From Luo Fengyi's roaring voice, a general outline of a formidable clan was sketched out, and Yi Xuan finally came to understand that perhaps the influence of Luo clan was quite strong in Yi Yuan School. Luo Yifan himself was a true disciple. In the future, he might also have the opportunity to compete for the position of sect head, and his uncle was an elder and should obviously be in the truth realm, and more importantly, he had a so-called granduncle, who was actually a Taishang elder, which was said to be the biggest authority in Yi Yuan School, of course, only after the authority of head and the chiefs of the 9 peaks of Yi Yuan School, in total 10 individuals. But the authority of a Taishang elder was very large, and he could also question the decisions made by sect head as well as chiefs of various peaks. In fact, some heads and chiefs were usually the apprentices of Taishang elders. It could be imagined that Luo clan was another huge influence in Yi Yuan School, and even the sect head could not put his hands on them if there was not enough reason for it. All of these people were illustrious figures in Yi Yuan School and held a major influence. With Luo clan's prominent influence, it was no wonder that Luo Tian was at the Xiantian 3rd stage back then and had actually tried to kill Hua Menghan by poisoning her. It could be guessed that he had nothing to fear because, even if he failed, Luo clan would shelter him, and so long as the Taishang elder of Luo clan would come forward, the sect head would have no alternative but to show due respect to him, regardless of how he actually felt. But even after considering all that, he never calculated that he would end up meeting Yi Shiwen and would get beheaded before even getting a chance to properly brag about his own family background. After knowing this, Yi Shiwen felt an increasingly tremendous pressure. So he was not against just one person, Luo Yifan, but it was actually an entire clan having several truth-level masters as its members. However, since it had already begun, then there was nothing to say anymore. Today, I'm going to block him and keep here. Soon my elder brother will come, and he has said that he would personally kill him. Luo Fangyi sneered and said, Luo Fangyi did not pay attention to Hua Minghan because her cultivation level was inferior compared to her own cultivation level. Yi Shiwen, hurry up and escape. At your current strength, you are not an opponent of Luo Yifan. You have absolutely no chance of winning against him. Yi Mo's voice suddenly resounded in his mind. Yi Shiwen also knew that if Luo Yifan was on the way, then perhaps he would catch up soon, and in that case he certainly could not stay here any longer, even though he had achieved the strength comparable to the masters of half-step Truth Realm. But this strength would be insufficient in front of a true master like Luo Yifan at his current strength. If he bumped into Luo Yifan, then the consequences could be disastrous, and it was simply a no-brainer that Luo Yifan would kill him on the spot. Yi Shiwen quickly analyzed the actions of the members of Luo clan, which also gave him a general insight about Luo clan. Luo Tian was only a master of Xiantian 3rd stage, but he still tried to kill a closing disciple of the head of Yi Yuan school. Luo Fangyi attacked Huyanghang, and he ended up getting crippled, but she did not care at all, and Luo Yifan blatantly interfered during seed disciple competition. Congregating all these facts, one could see the arrogant and overbearing demeanor of Luo clan and also its extraordinary influence in Yi Yuan school. So conclusion could be drawn from this that Luo Yifan would definitely kill him without worrying about anything. Brother Yi, where do you think you're going? Yi Shiwen was about to leave when suddenly the figure of the mediocre-looking man moved and appeared in front of Yi Shiwen, blocking his way. Who are you? Yi Shiwen asked. Xie. The man lightly said, Get out of the way. Yi Shiwen said, Since Brother Luo is coming, you will have to wait for some time. Xie said in a cold voice, although he said in a very polite tone, but his words were actually filled with contempt. So, you are a lackey of that Luo. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said with a killing intention flashing in his eyes, Luo Yifan has raised quite a few loyal dogs. Shut up. How dare you casually say Brother Luo's name like that? The handsome man said, If you had not thoroughly angered Brother Luo, then we would have killed you by now. Who are you? Yi Shiwen asked. Mu Yi. The handsome man replied, Since Brother Luo is aiming for your life himself, we will let you live until Brother Luo arrives here. Well, I wonder if Luo Yifan would regret it when he gets to know that 3 of his core disciples died at once. A cold smile appeared on the face of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen suddenly moved, his physique flashed, and in an instant, a burst of terrifying, imposing aura spread throughout the sky. To be continued. NT, important notice. Due to increased MGS chapter size, I am unable to keep 2 projects, but keeping GSI as a side project and releasing at slow pace is simply brutal for many readers. So I am dropping GSI, and it has been picked up by a group. I have given them full rights to the 14 chapters translated by me, so they will never have to waste time retranslating them, assuming I translated them good enough. If you find my translation shitty, you can request them to retranslate the first 14 chapters. I won't mind tongue sticking out. I will inform you people once they are ready for releases. Chapter 150. NT. Wednesday's regular release. Phew, finally 150. Next target is to reach 200 laughing face. Chapter 150. Reparations after saying that. Yi Shiwen suddenly moved, his physique flashed, and in an instant, a burst of terrifying, imposing aura spread throughout the sky. If he wanted to get away, then the only way left for him was to behead all three of them as soon as possible. The speed of Yi Shiwen was so fast that none of the people present at the scene could see him clearly. He instantly used Celestial Step, and it could be seen that his movements were already at the Acme level, and perhaps only Luo Fangyi might just be able to slightly track his movements. Yi Shiwen, since you are so eager to die, then we have no choice but to kill you in place of Brother Luo. Mu Yi shouted loudly, and immediately moved in order to stop Yi Shiwen and rushed straight towards him. While his terrifying strength of Xiantian Great, which was nearly approaching the strength of half a step truth realm, instantly spread out, and a huge chi field enveloped Yi Shiwen inside it. Boom! Yi Shiwen shot his palm, and the huge chi field instantly exploded, and within the endless frenzy of Zhenyuan after the explosion, Mu Yi could not react, and in a flash Yi Shiwen had already arrived in front of him. Coiling Dragon Palm. Hidden Dragon rises from the abyss. There was a panic-stricken look in the eyes of Mu Yi, and at this time Yi Zaiwen's palm turned into dragon claws and maliciously slammed on his chest. Boom! Mu Yi, a master of the Xiantian Great Realm, was directly sent flying. All the bones in his body completely shattered. He spurted out a mouthful of blood, mixed with some visceral matter released from his crushing internal organs. With just one palm attack from Yi Shiwen, this extremely arrogant guy was instantly sent flying. Then immediately Yi Zaiwen's body shuttled forward like an arrow towards Mu Yi and shoved a fierce kick on his body in midair, and his body directly plummeted on the ground. Boom! Yi Zaiwen's kick was not one bit less fierce compared to his palm attack. Half of Mu Yi's body was directly split open by Yi Zaiwen's kick. His internal organs were crushed, and his Zhenyuan was completely disrupted. It was now simply impossible for him to live in such a state. Impossible! Xie Yi shouted in disbelief because the strength of Mu Yi and his own strength were almost at the same level. But he just could not believe his eyes when he saw that not just Mu Yi was unable to block Yi Shiwen. He was also so effortlessly killed by Yi Shiwen. Yi Zaiwen's strength was simply unimaginable and super tyrannical. How could this Yi Shiwen be so tyrannical? How dare you kill a disciple of the same sect? You're done for, because now not only you, but your entire family must die. Xie Yi yelled. A cold look flashed in the eyes of Yi Shiwen. It was the most unacceptable thing for him when someone threatened his family, because if his family was even touched by anyone, then it would simply invoke the wrath of the Dragon Emperor itself inside of him. In this entire world, Yi Shiwen only held unbreakable bond with his family and could do anything for them. And if someone threatened him using his family, then they would certainly be courting death. Boom! The tyrannical, imposing aura of Yi Shiwen scattered in all directions. It seemed as if his whole persona was just like a tornado, while intermittent, horrifying blast waves were rolling out of his body. In a flash, Yi Zaiwen's stature suddenly ejected straight towards Xie Yi just like an artillery shell. Xie Yi simply could not react, and just saw a huge palm coming closer and closer towards his face, and instantly went toward his cheek. Bold! Luo Fangyi shouted and pointed her finger towards Yi Shiwen, and it seemed as if the finger-point attack would break the world itself, and accompanied with air explosions while producing a zee sound in the air, it instantly arrived near Yi Shiwen. Get lost! Yi Shiwen shouted loudly, and suddenly layer upon layer of sound waves proliferated through the atmosphere and blocked the finger-point attack of Luo Fangyi. Luo Fangyi immediately had to withdraw several steps because even if she was a master of the half-step truth realm, but this realm consisted of strong as well as weak masters, and Yi Shiwen was clearly the strongest in the half-step truth realm, while Luo Fangyi could only be regarded at the bottom of the half-step truth realm. Luo Fangyi did not have a way to stop Yi Shiwen while his palm continued to get closer and closer to Xie Yi. Smack! A loud sound of slap resounded, and Xie Yi's body was instantly sent flying while spinning, and a mouthful of his teeth were also broken by the fierce slap from Yi Shiwen. Bang! Yi Shiwen directly trampled the dantian of Xie Yi and crushed it. After his dantian was destroyed, his body could no longer withstand the gravity and started falling towards the ground in an upside-down state. Yi Zaiwen's long blade chopped out a terrifying bladiki, which directly caught up with the flying body of Xiayi. NT. Blade light is just a representation of bladiki. Both are same. Puchi. Xiayi was cleft in two halves in the midair by Yi Zaiwen's bladiki. Jing Yan'an looked at Yi Shiwen and could not help but held his breath for a moment. He did not expect Yi Shiwen to be so ruthless that he would mercilessly kill people in rage, but still in a decisive manner without any hesitation. When most people came to know about the true background of a clan like Luo clan, then they would certainly hesitate and even try to sort out enmity and differences, even after knowing that there was no room left to sort out anything, and very few would dare to directly kill. Cultivating seed-level core disciples was not an easy task, and it could even be said that these people had been especially trained by Luo clan to be used in the future when they managed to break into the truth realm. They were one of the valuable assets of Luo clan, and now that they had been beheaded, the rage of Luo clan could be imagined. Now, there was no turning back for the two sides. Only death was the ultimate solution. You dare! Luo Fengyi looked unbelievably at Yi Shiwen. Luo clan's overbearing influence was well known to everyone, and most people did not dare to go against Luo clan. Even one mention of the name of Luo was enough to make them scared. She was shocked not because of Yi Zaiwen's ruthlessness, because compared to him, she had been much more cruel. She had committed a lot of cruel acts, and that was the reason why she was able to reach her current level, which was a proof of her ruthlessness. But it was all what she had done to others. No one ever did this to her until now. Who do you think you are? Since you dared to intercept me, be prepared to die. Yi Shiwen said in an extremely angry voice, which was quite scary to hear. They not just threatened him, but his family as well. So now he was fully convinced that he would absolutely not allow the people of Luo clan to hurt his family at any cost. This was definitely not a joke. Luo Fengyi could clearly feel the murderous aura coming out of Yi Zaiwen's body, and it was no secret that he was really intending to kill her. From the earlier fight, Luo Fengyi knew that she was definitely not the opponent of Yi Shiwen, which extremely frightened her in her heart. How could Yi Shiwen be so formidable? His strength was simply unimaginable and was clearly above her own strength. After arriving here, she did not try to kill Yi Shiwen just because of her brother's request to trap Yi Shiwen in this place and stop him from escaping, so that when her brother would come, he would personally kill Yi Shiwen. So none of them had planned to kill Yi Shiwen from the outset. At this moment, she suddenly shivered because she realized that if she had tried to kill him earlier, then she would have been the first one to die. Thinking of this, suddenly a chill ran down her spine, and she instantly turned around to escape from Yi Shiwen. You want to escape? Humph. She turned around to escape, but a surge of Zhan Yuan hit her from behind and exploded, making her to instantly fall on the ground, followed by a figure dropping from the sky towards her. Yi Shiwen directly stepped on her body, and the terrifying strength applied an intense pressure on her chest, and she immediately spouted a mouthful of blood. Today, none of you are going to escape, Yi Shiwen said in a cold voice. Yi Shiwen originally did not want to slaughter them. That's why he just abolished the martial arts of Huyanghang and did not kill him. But later, these three thoroughly enraged him by bringing his family into this matter, and now, no matter what, he decided to exterminate all three of them, because even one of them managed to escape, then trouble would follow. But as long as no evidence was found by the Luo clan, then they could only plan secret attacks on him like today, and would not be able to publicly prosecute him without the solid evidence. He needed to be careful, because if the evidence was found by the Luo clan, then they had many ways to deal with him. In fact, they could even use their influence in the sect to deal with him. And by that time, if he did not possess enough strength to take on Luo clan, then that would really be a dead end for him. Yi Zaiwen's Zhan Yuan was like the firmest shackles and had firmly locked down Luo Fengyi on the ground. She could not even move. Junior sister apprentice Hua, Junior sister apprentice Hua, save me. At this time, Luo Fengyi looked at Hua Menghan. as if she was looking at the peerless savior, and tried to seize the last ray of hope to save her life. Seeing that Hua Menghan turned away, suddenly a feeling of despair arose in her heart, and she quickly shouted, "Junior sister apprentice Hua, we are disciples of the same master. If you do not help me, and master got to know about this, then he would certainly remove you from status of closing disciple." I did not see anything. A look of disgust flashed in the eyes of Hua Menghan, and seeing the current state of Luo Fengyi under the feet of Yi Shiwen, she actually felt some pleasant sensations in her heart. From the day she had entered the main sect, Luo Fengyi had been constantly causing troubles for her because Luo Fengyi thought that after the arrival of Hua Menghan, the head would not receive her as closing disciple. So Luo Fengyi was always looking for trouble, and some time ago, she sent her brother to poison Hua Menghan. If she had not met Yi Shiwen back then, death would have been small because before dying, she would have faced severe atrocities and insult. Considering this, the anger in the heart of Hua Menghan was not smaller than that of Yi Shiwen. Hearing the words of Hua Menghan, Luo Fengyi was demented and immediately shouted, "You damn bitch! You see somebody in trouble and still refuse to help, I will." Before she could finish the sentence, Yi Shiwen directly killed her, and at this time not a shred of mercy was present in his heart. After all, if not handled in a cleanly manner, then perhaps it could invite greater trouble in the future. "We must hurry and report to the sect." Senior sister apprentice Luo and her team fought vigorously with the devils, but lost the battle after they exhausted their strengths and were ultimately killed by the devils. The devils also ate their corpses on the spot. At this time, Jing Yannan suddenly said. Yi Shiwen suddenly realized that Jing Yannan words implied that they were going to stand on the same front as Yi Shiwen and won't expose him. After all, they personally witnessed his rage and decisive killing and were also afraid that Yi Shiwen would suddenly launch an attack on them. Moreover, they had a deeper friendship with Hua Menghan. In addition to Hu Yangheng, they also found the members of Luo clan very arrogant and annoying because they had tried to assassinate Hua Menghan, so they were secretly satisfied from the deaths of Luo Fengyi and her team. Judging from all this, it was obvious that they would certainly not risk their lives for the sake of the deaths of their enemies. Indeed, such a pity. Those devils are too cruel and flagitious. Everyone suddenly showed their acknowledgement and supported the statement made by Jing Yannan, showing that they were also on Yi Zaiwen's side. Hua Menghan also nodded to show her consent, waved her palm, and a flame-like Zhen Yuan flew towards the 4 corpses and began to burn them. And in a while, the corpses completely burn up without a trace left. Fellow senior brothers and sisters, I will not forget about the help I received today and certainly return the favor someday. If there is anything you need in the future, do not shirk to tell me about it. To be continued. Chapter 151. Target, Truth Level Devil Commander. Half a month's time passed quietly. During this period of half a month, the entire Masha territory was in turmoil because the daughter of Luo clan Luo Fengyi had gone missing, and this news caused a stir in Masha territory. After Luo Yifan, Luo Fengyi was the outstanding talented master who was most likely going to be the next truth level master of the Luo clan, but now she completely disappeared and not even her corpse could be found anywhere. This caused Luo clan to get suddenly furious, especially Luo Yifan, because he was in the Masha territory when she disappeared, and this was the reason behind his violent anger. He was frantically searching for the whereabouts of Yi Shiwen because he had a hunch that this was the doing of Yi Shiwen. Although the news widely spread that Luo Fengyi was killed by devils, but he did not believe it. She must have been killed by that Yi Shiwen, because Luo Fengyi had informed him that she was going to intercept Yi Shiwen along with her 2 partners. But after that, he did not receive any messages from her or her partners. And this thing had made Luo Yifan extremely furious, and he was searching Yi Shiwen in all directions in order to cut him into 10,000 pieces. But this search was not on a grand scale, because it could be said that he still was not completely suspecting Yi Shiwen. Did that mean that at the time when they intercepted Yi Shiwen, they were killed by him instead? What to say? First, since Yi Shiwen was actually the chief of Inner Sea disciples, and he also broke several old records of Yuan school after so many years. And not just that, many people treated him as the next chief fiefin of Yuan school, and his extraordinary talent had also attracted the attention of a lot of old officials of sect. However, if he was secretly taken care of by Luo clan, and so long as no one else got to know about this, those old guys would obviously get very furious at the death of a peerless genius like Yi Shiwen. But they won't step up to do something about it, after all, who would try to fight for the sake of a deceased man. And this paragraph gives the first reason why Luo Yifan is secretly searching for Yi Shiwen rather than openly blaming him for killing his subordinates. He fears that old officials would step forward to save Yi Shiwen, so it's better to kill him first without the interference from those old officials. But if disclosed publicly, then perhaps the anger of those old guys might lead to downfall of Luo clan. Although Luo clan was considered a big influence, but not big enough to hoodwink the public in a grand way. After all, even the mighty Luo clan had a lot of enemies. This was an unsaid custom followed in Yuan school, and if people wanted to kill someone, they must do it secretly, otherwise it would create a great disturbance and utter confusion in Yuan school. Second, not to mention, if 3 seed-level core disciples were really killed by Yi Shiwen, then it would cause a huge uproar, but there was no evidence. Moreover, Yi Shiwen was the chief of inner seed disciples, and many old fogies favored him a lot. If he had really killed one of the top core disciples of Yuan school, then his strength was definitely comparable to the strength of masters of half-step truth realm, and this news would cause a sensation throughout Yuan school. Even many formidable masters who were still in closed-door training in the depths of space and time would be alerted to come out. After all, Yi Shiwen was just a kid who joined the main sect not even a year ago. So how could he become so formidable so fast? Perhaps when the time was right, the respectable seniors would come out from the depths of space and time, where these old fogies had been cultivating in seclusion, and they would take Yi Shiwen with them to the depths of space and time, and there they would train him and also give him rich sect resources to help him grow faster. Compared to such a genius, Luo Fangyi's death simply did not mean anything to these old fogies, let alone it was Luo Fangyi who intercepted Yi Shiwen, so she got what she deserved. Yi Shiwen was such an evildoer that appeared once in a very long time in the world of martial arts, and such an evildoer was given the opportunity to obtain training and a large number of resources. Then in the future, no one would be able to imagine his strength, which would simply be against the heaven's will. And the term evildoer doesn't mean evil guy. So in this case, it was not easy to kill Yi Shiwen without disturbing others. In this short time of less than a month, several groups of core seed disciples and inner seed disciples, who were searching for Yi Shiwen, also disappeared without a trace, just like Luo Fangyi. Luo Yifan knew very well that it must be the doing of Yi Shiwen, but it was useless to suspect without the evidence. But loss of dearly ones had caused Luo clan to feel bad for quite a while, though these seed disciples were not in the truth realm, but it had not been easy to cultivate them. Training worth of decades was needed to achieve the strength equivalent to the level of seed core disciples, and a lot of resources were also spent for their fast growth. If they were just ordinary masters of Xiantian 9th stage, then it was not a big to lose them, but they were the elites who had learned most superior martial arts power techniques and had also consumed finest and rare material treasures, so their martial arts was far better than their peers. It could be said that Luo clan had made a huge investment in them, and all of them held the highest possibility to qualify for the truth realm in the future. But it was all gone. All of them disappeared. In this session of seed disciple competition, Luo clan faced quite a heavy loss. Luo Yifan was not furious, without a reason. Luo Yifan searched the outlying areas of Masha territory, but could not find Yi Shiwen, as if Yi Shiwen was also dead. But he actually knew that Yi Shiwen was not dead. He was absolutely not dead. Luo Yifan's intuition was telling him that Yi Shiwen was still alive. But he did not dare to go too deep inside the Masha territory, because in the depths of Masha territory there was a huge country of devils, and among them, devil monarchs were very formidable, and there were many truth-level devils. It was said that only truth-level formidable individuals, who were almost near the level of Chi Fifin, dared to venture into the depths of Masha territory. Others did not dare to go too far and only roamed in the periphery. Luo Yifan had no idea that he would end up searching for Yi Shiwen for so long in the outskirts of Masha territory. But Yi Shiwen was actually in the depths of Masha territory, a place which was considered extremely dangerous due to it being the den of a large of formidable devils. But as far as Yi Shiwen was considered, that was not the case, because he was the master of Tianyuan Mirror, and unless he encountered a truth-level devil, other devils were not his opponents, and were simply cut like vegetables by Yi Shiwen whenever they encountered him. Since the day Yi Shiwen killed Luo Fangyi, he had been honing his skills in the depths of Masha territory, partly to escape from the search of Luo Yifan. He knew that this was the place where Luo Yifan would definitely be afraid to come, and only extraordinary and rampant masters like Qi Fifan would dare to come here, or someone who held a major secret like Yi Shiwen. On the other hand, it was also because those devils in the periphery of Masha territory were not enough for him, because the essence absorbed by beheading those devils was no longer enough for Yi Shiwen, and basically was not helping at all in enhancing his cultivation level. Even if he was absorbing the essence present in the bodies of the devils of half-step truth level, the effect was not very big. Now the time to exit the Masha territory was soon going to arrive, and since Luo Yifan was unable to find him during this time, he would definitely wait for Yi Shiwen outside in order to intercept him. Yi Shiwen clearly knew about this, so he was temporarily risking his life to ensure his future safety. Now your cultivation is at the peak of Xiantian's 7th stage, and your fighting strength is comparable to the masters of half-step truth realm. But even if you once again have a breakthrough to the Xiantian 8th stage, your fighting strength will still be comparable to the top masters of half-step truth realm. Yemo said, "After all, you have not properly broken through to the truth realm, and you cannot imagine the huge gap between the truth realm and half-step truth realm. Only if you manage to reach the Xiantian 9th stage. At that time, your fighting strength will finally be comparable to that of a true master, and then you will have enough strength to protect yourself." "I know," Yi Shiwen said. "At present, it is possible only if I absorb a large number of top-grade spirit stones. Otherwise, relying on my own accumulation of Lingqi, it will take too long to cross this ridge, probably 8 or 10 years or even more. It is said that you won't gain anything until you venture into the tiger's den. I just need to directly behead a truth-level devil and absorb his essence, and then in a short time I will definitely make a breakthrough to the Xiantian 9th stage." Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes, and an inexplicable light flashed in his eyes. It was simply unthinkable for Yi Shiwen to take on a human truth-level master, although he himself was among the top masters of half-step truth realm, and it could be said that none of the masters of half-step truth level were his opponents. But if he encountered a truth-level master, then he won't stand a chance. This was why he had been hiding from Luo Yifan, and now that the exit time was going to arrive soon, it was obvious that Luo Yifan must be extremely mad that Yi Shiwen killed several of his core level seed disciples, and this time he might not spare Yi Shiwen in front of the large crowd like he did last time, and might actually kill him on the spot. And if Yi Shiwen did not go out, then it would undoubtedly anger Luo clan, and they would vent their anger on Qianyu faction or Yi family. So the only option left for Yi Shiwen was to risk his life and enhance his strength as soon as possible. At his current strength, Yi Shiwen did not stand a chance against a human master of Truth Realm. But as far as Truth-level devils were concerned, Yi Shiwen believed that as long as there was the suppression of Tianyuan Mirror, there was some possibility that he might stand a chance against a Truth-level devil. Yi Shiwen had been observing from above a mountain peak for a long time, and some time later he saw a grandiose caravan at a far distance coming out of a devil city and consisted of many devil guards. And in the center, there was a truth-level devil. Earlier, Yi Shiwen had impersonated as a devil and entered the city to inquire, and had found out about this truth-level devil called Jufeng Feudal Lord. He recently entered the Truth Realm, and the Demon Emperor of Devil Country bestowed upon him the title of the Feudal Lord of Jufeng City and the neighboring areas. These days, almost every day, he would come out of the city with his caravan to patrol his own territory, and each time he would be accompanied by a large retinue, with many devil subordinates and slaves. Yi Shiwen looked coldly at the Jufing feudal lord, because the only guy he needed to worry about was this Jufing feudal lord. He could easily handle the rest of the devils in the caravan by using the suppression of Tianyuan Mirror, because under the suppression they would not be able to use even half their strengths. Although there were a lot of devils, but even their combined strength was not enough to stop him. His main target was the Jufing feudal lord, because he would be the most difficult one to deal with. Because Jufing feudal lord had recently stepped into the truth realm, his breath was still somewhat unstable, and his aura was openly overflowing, and looking from afar, his machi could be seen soaring in the sky, which was quite a frightening sight. NT, machi equals devil chi. Yi Shiwen did not have another choice. Those old devils who had stepped into the truth realm a long time ago were very terrifying existences. So relatively speaking, Jufing City's feudal lord was the easiest target at Yi Zaiwen's current strength. But at the same time, he was aware of the fact that he was getting this opportunity for only one time, because if he failed this time, Jufing feudal lord would certainly be vigilant in his future patrols, and the next time it won't be easy to kill him. Jufing feudal lord would most probably come out of the city, accompanied by a lot of devil guards, and in addition to his own incredible truth level strength. Even by relying on the suppression of Tianyuan Mirror, Yi Shiwen would have no chance of succeeding. "Let's go!" Yi Shiwen shouted, and while leaving deep footprints on the ground, his body shot forward, as if an arrow just left the bow, and rushed straight toward the caravan of Jufing feudal lord. To be continued. Chapter 152. NT. Thanks Bob, USA, for sponsoring Chapter 152. This chapter is so marvelous. Why? Read for yourself, winking face. Chapter 152. Bitter struggle. The loud shout of Yi Shiwen immediately attracted the attention of many devil guards and caused commotion and disturbance among them. They pulled out their weapons and looked coldly at Yi Shiwen. Judging from his battle cry, it was certain that he was not a friend and must be stopped. Suddenly, they smelled Yi Zaiwen's breath and realized that he smelled like a human being, and their complexions immediately changed. Human? It was actually a human. NT. This breath is not that breath. Tongue sticking out. In Masha territory, the enmity between the human race and devil race was even greater and deadlier. They hated each other and were sworn enemies, and so long as a human appeared in their territory, then he would certainly be killed. Human warriors used them as objects to gain experience, and this had developed a burning anger in the hearts of these devils. Subject him to death. A Xiantian 9th stage devil master took out his long blade and shot a myriad of blade light, and it seemed as if they were cutting through a section of the world itself. Yi Shiwen immediately waved his long blade, and it seemed as if a galaxy itself started to fall from the 9th heaven, like a swaying slice of magnificence, and instantly crushed the myriad of blade light, and after that it rushed towards that master. Dang! A loud metal clashing sound spread, and Yi Zaiwen's blade light clashed with the long blade of that master, and instantly shattered it into pieces and crumbled down on the ground. Yi Zaiwen's blade light went unobstructed like the lightning itself, and it was too late for that devil master to dodge, and was cleft in two, while screaming pitifully. The other devil masters simply did not care even if one of their own was beheaded by Yi Shiwen, but there was not even the slightest change in their attitude. It could be said that these devils had crawled out of the sea of blood, had lived a long life through bloody battles, and were extremely cold-blooded. In addition to that, they were all extremely cruel existences, and at this moment, they only cared about their one and only target, Yi Shiwen. Clang! 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 Dozens of the devil warriors suddenly released their attacks, and numerous blade lights filled the entire sky, while each blade light was so terrifying that it was sending shock waves in the air. Innumerable blade shadows directly shook the entire sky and filled the entire atmosphere with machi. NT. Machi equals devil chi. I put these notes in every chapter for the sake of forgetful readers. Don't blame me for this. Tongue sticking out, these devil masters had abnormal understanding among them and were exceptionally tacit in coordinating their attacks. Like a moment ago, they almost simultaneously released their blade attacks, and this combined attack was just like the composition of a Zhen formation, with Yi Shiwen in the center, and all of his escape routes were completely closed off. NT, I am going to use Zhen formation in place of Zhen method, as requested by a user. There was a deadpan look on the face of Yi Shiwen as he was using Celestial Step. His pace did not stagnate even the slightest as he directly dashed wildly towards the Jufeng feudal lord, and his blade issued a bright blade light in the sky that directly rumbled against those devil masters and sent them flying in all directions. Dang! 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 The terrifying strength of Yi Shiwen severely hit those devil masters, who did not stand a chance in front of him, and his blade light almost instantly wiped out several devil masters, and the weaker ones were instantly chopped down into pieces. Yi Shiwen did not stop and continued to release formidable blade lights, ruthlessly and one after another. Poof! Yi Zaiwen's blade light pierced the chest of a devil master that minced his internal organs and killed him in an instant. Yi Shiwen waved his long blade and released a terrifying bladiki, which went flying and advanced unhindered towards the devils. Bang! The body of a devil master was sliced at his waist, and 2 sections of his body flew upside down. Yi Shiwen continued to rush straight through the group of devil guards as if he was taking a stroll. Others devil guards saw their companions getting chopped down and dying, but they were not the slightest afraid and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. These were experienced devil guards, and all of them had gone through very rigorous training and were only loyal to Jufeng feudal lord. The cunningness and cruelty of these devils was completely on a different level. Bang! But it was obvious when these devil experts rushed towards Yi Shiwen. They were chopped down by his blade, their bodies instantly burst, their heads cracked open, rest were split in half. Yi Shiwen seemed to be leisurely and easily making his way towards Jufeng feudal lord while killing all of the devil guards who were trying to get in his way. He advanced quickly while sending those devils flying and splattering blood all the way. Jufeng feudal lord was different and much stronger than these devil guards, but each of them had followed him for a long time and helped him in his conquest to become a direct descendant and gain his current status. They were extremely loyal to the Jufeng feudal lord, and one could say that the masters of the same level of Yi Yuan school were not necessarily the opponents of these devil guards. These devil guards were just like killing machines that had crawled out from a battle scene, ruthless and were not afraid to die. But they were being chopped down like vegetables by Yi Shiwen without getting a chance to even react, and it seemed like he was just taking a stroll. Damn human, you actually dared to appear in front of us. You are really courting death. A devil master of half-step truth realm said in a loud voice and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. He was the captain of the devil guards. From a distant place, Jufeng feudal lord was looking coldly at the rushing figure of Yi Shiwen. He was looking down on Yi Shiwen, who was not even the master of Truth Realm, and he was simply not paying attention to Yi Shiwen, as if he was looking in the direction of Yi Shiwen, but did not bother to pay attention to an ant-like existence. The half-step truth level devil captain threw an extremely formidable Quan Jin, which twisted up, forming a tornado, then swept towards Yi Shiwen, swallowing everything on the way. NT, Quan Jin equals fist strength. Yi Zaiwen's long blade chopped out a dazzling move, but very gently, and in a flash 100 feet long blade light instantly congealed and rushed maliciously. The half-step truth level devil captain did not expect Yi Shiwen to be so formidable. After all, Yi Shiwen was also at the same level as him, and devils were supposed to be inherently superior warriors compared to the humans at the same level. Then how could Yi Shiwen, a human master at half-step truth realm, be more formidable than him? He immediately threw his fist in order to release Quan Jin, but did not get a chance to react, and before he could realize what happened, his arm was suddenly cut off by Yi Shiwen on the spot. Yi Shiwen clearly had the upper hand, and his long blade instantly chopped out a second time and used Missing Moon Beheader at the devil captain, without pausing even for an instant. Pucci! The half-step truth level devil captain was directly split into two halves by Yi Shiwen. Human, you are quite courageous to actually dare and attack the caravan of this Jufing feudal lord. At this time, Jufing feudal lord finally moved. Human, today you must die. I will use your human blood to wash away the shame that human beings have imposed on devil race. Cut the crap, Jufing feudal lord. Today it's you who is going to die. Yi Shiwen was not in a mood to talk nonsense with Jufing feudal lord. During these days that he had spent in investigating about him, he had also discovered that this Jufing feudal lord and other devil feudal lords were all incomparably cruel and brutal. The devils around Jufing feudal lord immediately made way for him and did not dare to approach him. The strength levels of these two masters simply could not be compared, and perhaps if it was someone else challenging Jufing feudal lord, then it would be a dead end for them. Human die. Jufing lord bellowed and blasted his fist. Layers after layer of mochi swept out, and from the void, black blossoming lotuses suddenly congealed and dropped from the sky. Each of these black lotuses contained terrifying strength, and with just a single touch, masters of Xiantian 9th stage would directly get killed without leaving any room to escape. But at this time, the Tianyuan mirror, hidden in Yi Zaiwen's body, finally assumed an awe-inspiring stance and released a horrifying emperor, like coercion, which instantly and firmly suppressed the strength of Jufing feudal lord, making him to have an aggrieved feeling in his heart, while horrifying waves of coercion were pressuring him. However, the black lotuses started to fall towards Yi Shiwen at terrifying speeds. Yi Shiwen suddenly chopped out his long blade, and a fearful, majestic diagram of moon congealed in the sky and went towards the falling black lotuses and swept them away. Boom! 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 Yi Zaiwen's blade attack swept away most of the black lotuses, and they started to explode one by one. Die, you ant-like human! An inexplicable coercion was tightly holding him down, causing him to have a feeling of surrendering, and this feeling had penetrated deep into his heart, which soon made him to get depressed and extremely mad, and he suddenly attacked once again. Boom! 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 The black lotuses strangely disappeared and suddenly reappeared behind Yi Shiwen and exploded. Poof! Yi Shiwen spouted blood from his mouth, and his full body armor instantly disintegrated, while blood started dripping from his back, covering the entire back portion of his body in blood. It was indeed true that truth-level masters were incomparably terrifying, although most of his strength was being suppressed by Tianyuan Mirror, but he still had enough strength to fatally wound Yi Shiwen. If Jufing feudal lord was using his full strength, then the earlier attack was sufficient enough to violently kill Yi Shiwen. However, there wasn't the slightest fear on the face of Yi Shiwen. On the contrary, at present, the look on his face made him look like a battle maniac who was enjoying the battle very much. His opponent was a disciplined commander and a formidable opponent, but he still must beat this opponent at any cost. Damn human, I will crush you! Lord Jufing roared fiercely and blasted his fist maliciously towards Yi Shiwen. Boom! The fist swept out a fist wind which took form a very scary black tornado, and it seemed as if it was cutting off and twisting the space itself and swallowed everything on its way. As the fist blast arrived, it seemed as if the time itself stagnated, and in this moment, only the glory of this fist attack was visible to all. An invisible pressure instantly attacked the heart of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen, watch out! Yi Emo shouted. This truth-level devil lord's strength was terrifying and far beyond his imagination. The brilliant Quan Jin seemed to enlarge infinitely, as if it was going to expand right across the sky, and fiercely exploded. Most people could not see. Even Yi Shiwen could faintly see the trajectory of this terrifying and incredibly fast Quan Jin, and instantly chopped out his long blade, releasing gorgeous rays of light that ultimately transformed into a supreme blade and shot up in the sky towards that terrifying Quan Jin. At this time, from the look on Yi Zaiwen's face, It seemed as if he was drowning in water and tightly clenching his teeth to fight against the horrifying pressure. Boom! Quan Jin and Blade Light suddenly collided with each other, and this collision was so dazzling that it was hard to open one's eyes, so formidable that it almost crushed the space, and seemed to spread chaos, just like the scene of grand explosion during the Big Bang, and layer after layer of huge shock waves spread in all directions. The brilliant Quan Jin of the Jufeng feudal lord was incomparably powerful, and he had to use Zhen Yuan behind his back to support himself in front of such a powerful attack, while the Quan Jin quickly engulfed his Blade Light, and this time the gap between the strengths of the two masters clearly reflected itself and was incisive and vivid. Boom! The incomparably horrifying Quan Jin instantly blasted into the body of Yi Shiwen, and he spat a mouthful of blood. The horrifying Quan Jin thundered on the body of Yi Shiwen, while at the same time the impact caused the tyrant body technique to suddenly enhance to the acme level, and just like the fierce collision of two weapons, in that instant, a deafening loud sound resounded. The Quan Jin finally dispersed, and the entire chest of Yi Shiwen was covered in blood due to it. If his body wasn't abnormally strong, then, like ordinary people, he would have been turned into minced meat by the terrifying blast of that Quan Jin. To be continued. NT, poll results and winners dash, title at the top, and no more live translation. Also, darkening the title is a suggestion from an intellectual reader named Dark Hearts. Hats off to you, man, laughing face. Chapter 153. NT, thanks Bob, USA, Quinton Niven, France, and Jan Henrik Dux, Germany, for sponsoring Chapter 153. Well, trick or treat. So, I am going to resume translation from Monday, though I am still recharging. I am still on break, but I could not help myself and prepared this treat for you guys. Enjoy! Chapter 153. Comparable to Truth Realm, Yi Zaiwen's body was almost beaten to disintegration because the attack of this Truth Level Master was too terrifying. But it was only this once, as the Jufeng feudal lord was once again completely suppressed by the Tianyuan mirror, and as long as the mirror's coercion was acting on him, he won't be able to issue such a terrifying attack again. But Jufeng lord did not give Yi Shiwen much time to rest, and again threw a fierce Quan Jin that went across the sky towards Yi Shiwen and rumbled maliciously. NT? Quan Jin equals fist strength. Yi Zaiwen's immortal-like stature swept out in the air. His blade's intention shot up towards the sky and transformed into a very lifelike and vivid coiling dragon, made up of blade intention, and it seemed that it would destroy everything that would come in its way. The huge coiling dragon, made up of blade intention, soared high into the sky, and it seemed as if it would destroy the heaven itself. The long blade danced in his hands and released Jin Yuan, which then suddenly soared several folds into the sky and firmly advanced towards the Jufeng feudal lord. The Quan Jin of Jufeng feudal lord congealed out of void and transformed into an invincible war devil and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen immediately transformed the blade intention into multiple vivid diagrams. Each of these diagrams were capable of suppressing the entire world and crushing everything. The invincible war devil was directly crushed and obliterated by the vivid diagram of Yi Zaiwen's blade intention. NT, this blade intention is just like creative concept, though it looks like a diagram, but the energy it's made up of is Bladiki. By the way, War Devil is also a creative concept. But in the meantime, without the slightest stagnation, Yi Shiwen immediately extended his hand, which then changed into a dragon claw, displaying the might of coiling dragon palm. Hidden dragon rises from the abyss, and the coiling dragon immediately advanced towards Jufeng feudal lord to grab him. Boom! Yi Zaiwen's dragon claw directly bombarded on the body of Jufeng feudal lord, who could not react and still did not know that this attack actually shattered most of his ribs. And at this time the Quan Jin of Jufeng feudal lord rumbled on the body of Yi Shiwen and directly shattered quite a few of his breastbones. Both of them immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and their bodies flew upside down, and were also shocked by fierceness of each other's attacks, while the intention to kill suddenly intensified in their eyes. Yi Shiwen must kill him to gain the strength equivalent to the masters of the Truth Realm, and Jufing Feudal Lord couldn't allow this insolent lowly human to escape. This was an old hatred, an impassable animosity. Boom! 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 Both of them were trying their utmost in the battle. Each move would cause fierce air explosions and collapse the atmosphere. None of them were holding back even the slightest, and were constantly using cutthroat attacks on each other. Tian Yuan Mirror had produced a square-shaped curtain made up of scarlet light, and it was hanging above his head, and the spirit stones began to burn inside the storage ring of Yi Shiwen, constantly emitting huge amount of Lingqi to consolidate Tian Yuan Mirror. Damn human! Jufing Feudal Lord roared. He never thought that he would actually be seriously wounded by a lowly human, a human who had not even stepped into the Truth Realm. He was so seriously wounded that blood was constantly spilling out from the corners of his mouth, and he still was not aware that some of the broken ribs had pierced his internal organs, resulting in constant blood loss. The degree of Yi Zaiwen's aggressiveness had gone far beyond the imagination of Jufing Feudal Lord, because he never thought that Yi Shiwen would actually be able to injure him. He was merely a human who had not even stepped into the Truth Realm, and who would have thought that a lowly ant-like human would actually injure him to such an extent. After entering the Truth Realm, this was the first time he had to face the bitter feeling of sustaining injuries. Yi Shiwen did not expect that this truth-level devil would actually be so terrifying, and it would be so hard to deal with him. This battle had gone far beyond his imagination. But at this moment, there was an even more excited expression on his face, because he knew full well that if he could beat such a strong opponent, then he himself would become much stronger than ever before. With an ice-cold expression on his face, Yi Shiwen shouted, "Die!" Yi Shiwen started to release blade intentions one after another, and a group of blade intentions blotted out the entire sky and pressed down. This was a competition between creative concepts, and this was also a competition to see which one of them would be able to resist and which one would go down. Jufing Feudal Lord bellowed. The machi in his body quickly condensed into an ancient war devil, and right now it was in a defensive posture. His injuries were more severe compared to that of Yi Shiwen, and under the constant great suppression of Yi Mo's Tianyuan Mirror, he almost could not control himself because of the thought that had suddenly sprouted in his heart and was forcing him to prostrate in front of Yi Shiwen. This was a terrifying thought, making him want to snarl in desperation. He absolutely could not kneel down in front of a lowly human. Boom! A terrifying blade intention was fiercely chopped out towards the war devil of Jufing Feudal Lord. The blade intention transformed into a moon-like cold and sharp bladiki and instantly split the war devil into two halves. And after that, it collided into the body of Jufing Feudal Lord. Poof! Jufing Feudal Lord was blasted away, and his body directly crashed on the ground, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. Yi Shiwen shot his palm, congealing a long shadow of a coiling dragon. It thundered and released sound waves which transformed into 4 sonic arrows and shot forward. Divine dragon flings its tail. Bang! The dragon's tail swept towards Jufing Feudal Lord, and he was immediately sent flying. The coiling dragon's large tail had swept. Moreover, it was an all-out sweep, so the consequences could naturally be imagined. The barrier of energy protecting the body of Jufing Feudal Lord instantly exploded under the terrifying strength of Coiling Dragon's attack, and there simply was no way left for the Jufing Feudal Lord to protect himself. Kala! There was no suspense. Jufing Feudal Lord was swept away, all of the bones in his body completely shattered and turned into powder, while one could still hear the dragon howl. This end was incomparably terrifying. Damn it! Jufing Feudal Lord roared loudly. He just could not accept that such a fate would befall him, that he would be defeated like this by Yi Shiwen. Bang! Yi Shiwen used his foot to heavily stamp on the sternum of Jufing Feudal Lord, and after directly smashing it, his foot immediately penetrated into the ground. The heart of Jufing Feudal Lord was instantly crushed, and without the heart, he struggled a bit, then finally died. Tianyuan mirror emitted scarlet light, which completely enveloped the Jufing feudal lord, and his Jingqi was instantly absorbed by Tianyuan mirror. Then, after refining it and removing the impurities, the refined essence was instilled into the body of Yi Xuan. NT. Jingqi equals life essence or vitality. Right after this, the imposing aura of Yi Xuan started to increase gradually. Attack him, kill that damn human, and take revenge for the feudal lord. After witnessing the death of the Jufing feudal lord, some of the devils who were part of the caravan of the Jufing feudal lord immediately left the formation and ran away. Not much time had passed since the Jufing feudal lord had assumed the post of the feudal lord of Jufing City, so how could they possibly have any sense of belonging for him? However, there were some of the original followers of the Jufing feudal lord who had fought alongside him during the Jufing Civil War and were very loyal to him. At this time, all of them rushed towards Yi Xuan. Yi Xuan coldly snorted, and a long dragon soared into the sky and coiled around Yi Xuan. The devils who had just now approached near him were directly torn to pieces by the long dragon and could not approach him. The overwhelming dragon chi of this long dragon was itself the nemesis of these devils, and coupled with the strength of Yi Xuan, these devils simply didn't stand a chance. In addition to this, at this time, the Tianyuan mirror had assumed an awe-inspiring stance above the head of Yi Xuan, and with its support he was already able to deal with a truth-level master like Jufing feudal lord who had only been suppressed to a certain extent under the influence of Tianyuan mirror. But the strength levels of these devils was below the truth realm. Most of them were the devils of Xiantian 8th stage or 9th stage, and it was easy to completely suppress them. These devils could not withstand the horrifying coercion of the Tianyuan mirror that appeared all of a sudden, and they immediately knelt down on the ground, trembling, and a thought appeared in their hearts, making them feel as if they were present in front of their master. And Yi Xuan appeared as a godlike presence to them. The long dragon killed all them while none of them dared to resist, and eventually the life essences of these devils were also absorbed by Yi Xuan's body, although the effect was small, but it was still better than nothing. Yi Xuan's imposing aura finally started to increase successively. Boom! Yi Xuan finally had a breakthrough and stepped into the Xiantian 8th stage. His imposing aura increased by a section, but did not transform completely, though at this moment he had become stronger than a master of half-step truth realm, and his strength became even more unfathomable. Yi Xuan's body was crazily absorbing the life essence of Jufing feudal lord, which was completely different from the life essence of a master at the half-step truth realm. It was said that stepping into the truth realm was actually the second major transformation after the first major transformation during the breakthrough from Hotian realm to Xiantian realm, and it also brought forth bigger changes compared to the breakthrough from the Hotian realm. After stepping into the Xiantian realm, the lifespan increased from 100 years to 200 years, and again after breaking from Xiantian realm to truth realm, the lifespan increased from 200 years to 500 years, which was almost more than double. The life essence also had a complete change after stepping into the truth realm compared to how it was in the Xiantian realm. For stepping into the Xiantian realm from the Hotian realm, pure exercise of mortal body was required, and one needed to open up the world bridge. However, after stepping into the truth realm, one started understanding some of the laws of the world and also used them. For example, the flight itself violates the laws of the world, because according to the world's law, flight is impossible without the wings, but after comprehending some of the rules, one could override these limitations and not just flight. There were many examples like breathing underwater, walking in the fire, things that were not possible for a human being to achieve with his own ability, but a truth-level master could do all these impossible things. This was the beginning of the transformation of the body from an embryo into the legendary immortal god. Although this Jufing feudal lord was a devil, but in this regard, things were exactly the same for both devils and humans, irrespective of their races. The life essence of Xiantian level devils and truth level devils were very different, and the moment Yi Xuan absorbed the refined life essence of Jufing feudal lord, His cultivation instantly began to rise gradually. Meanwhile, Yi Shiwen also found out that when he came into contact with the life essence of a truth-level master, he also came into contact with the laws of this world, and the space in his mind also began to change. Originally, it was only for martial arts and could comprehend unceasingly, and the results of those comprehensions appeared in front of Yi Shiwen, making it easy for him to understand. In other words, originally, the space worked in a way that a school student could understand the language used to explain the contents in a university, which in itself was a miracle, an incredible myth. If not relying on this mysterious space, Yi Shiwen would not have been able to achieve his current strength in almost a year's time, and considering the progress he had shown during this 1 year, others would have achieved the same progress in several decades or even a century. Now that Yi Shiwen had finally come in contact with the laws of the world, the mysterious space actually began to analyze all sorts of mysteries of world laws and revealing them in front of him, who was initially unable to understand even the basic laws. But now he discovered that as long as he continued to inject Lingqi into the mysterious space, his understanding of the laws of the world would continue to improve. This was the reason why Yi Shiwen was confident that even when he was at the Xiantian 9th stage, he should be able to contend with a master at the first stage of Truth Realm, because these first stage true masters had only comprehended some of the basic world laws. But at present, Yi Shiwen could draw support from the mysterious space, making him able to grasp these laws faster. Xiantian 8th Intermediate, Xiantian 8th Late, Xiantian 8th Peak. Boom! The imposing aura of Yi Shiwen suddenly reached a terrifying level, and even the clouds in the sky started twisting into a group along with his breakthrough. Xiantian 9th Stage. The fighting strength of Yi Shiwen rose dramatically and became comparable to the masters of Truth Realm, then stopped. Yi Shiwen opened his eyes that flashed with vitality, and along with that, an explosion occurred in the atmosphere. To be continued. NT. Yi Zaiwen's inner state is at the Xiantian 9th stage, though the energy quantity and quality in his body is comparable to the masters of Truth Realm, thanks to Jufeng Feudal Lord's life essence, and he has also managed to comprehend the world laws thanks to mysterious space, and his body can take all this high-level stuff thanks to Tyrant Body Technique, and this novel has 3,000 chapters thanks to 500 years granted to Yi Shiwen by Truth Realm, which will certainly increase when he enters the legendary realm. Tongue sticking out. Chapter 154. NT. Thanks Jan Henrik, Dux, Germany, for sponsoring Chapter 154. Good morning. I am resuming translation from now. I had planned to release chapters on Monday night, but before I could, I slept on my lappy face with dung. I first planned to clear the queue and release those ancient sponsored chapters. Then I will start the regular releases. I might make some changes to the release schedule according to my current schedule. I will make an announcement in a few days. It feels nice to be back. Laughing face, Chapter 154. Trial ends, although it was very difficult to control one's own state and restrain one's breath just after having the breakthrough. For example, that Jufeng Feudal Lord who had recently broken through and entered into the Truth Realm but could not hide his breath. But Yi Shiwen was different. He had already reached a terrifyingly high level of restraining breath technique, and now, even if a master of truth realm was in front of him, they would find it difficult to discover Yi Zaiwen's presence. He instantly restrained his breath. At this time, there was no presence of devils within a radius of 100 miles, and Yi Shiwen had already killed Jufeng Feudal Lord, so how could they dare to stay there? So while Yi Shiwen was having a breakthrough, they quickly escaped. At this time, Yi Shiwen felt several godly sweeps, which swept over the entire area, and all belonged to the truth-level masters, though there were merely 10 of them in the nearby areas who had used their godly sweep. It seemed like at the time when Yi Shiwen was having a breakthrough, the color of world had deteriorated, and this had attracted the attention of many truth-level masters in the neighborhood. It is not safe to stay here for a long time. You should better leave this place a bit faster. Yi Mo said, there may be some truth-level, powerful devils heading this way. N. Yi Shiwen nodded and said, "Now it's about time for the trial to end. We must go out." Yi Shiwen said, and a rainbow suddenly appeared underfoot, and his entire figure vanished in the emptiness, dashing forward like a human god. It seemed like a month's time had passed in an instant, and it was time to open the door connecting Yi Yuan School to Masha territory, although the loss of personnel was not small. But this loss would soon be supplemented from the outside. A team of 100 people was simply not a problem as long as there were few people who could progress by leaps and bounds and get stronger than everyone. This was the fundamental notion in Yi Yuan School, that a strong individual was worth 1,000 mediocre. Yi Yuan School was one of great forces of the Great Yu State. But what was the actual reason behind its influence? It was not due to the hundreds of thousands of disciples, not due to the hundreds of true disciples, but was actually due to the 100 or so legendary level masters who held the most influence and held status right after the leaders of 10 Peaks, the head and the Taishang elder. This was the foundation of Yi Yuan School and truly guaranteed its safety. So it trained disciples with the consistent standards of picking out the elites, more talented, more cultured elites who could get enormous benefits for the sect. Although cruel, but it was a fundamental conduct in Yi Yuan School. Not only Yi Yuan School. Other major sects were also like this. This was a convention and was true at any place. The seed disciples were no doubt the most outstanding ones. I heard that there is an extraordinary character among this year's inner disciples. A core seed disciple said, and looked towards a distant place where inner seed disciples were present. The team of core seed disciples seemed to have shrunk by almost 1/3, and in comparison to them, the number of inner seed disciple was not much less. This was because they knew that their own strength was limited, so they did not go too deep inside the Masha territory. Basically, they just roamed in the peripheral areas, and therefore the casualties were minimized. This was the so-called trying to drink while pecking. And because of this, Yi Yuan School put these disciples in this place. They just wanted these core disciples to go through the worst to gain experience and enhance their strengths. Only the truth-level disciples had the ability to survive in this place. The sect knew that the disciples would not go too deep, and if they didn't, then they would not be able to have a major change in their destiny. If its disciples did not persevere, then the whole generation would be just a group of idiots, and even if they were to die, there would be nothing to pity. Such type of people who were not prepared to take risks could not see the future clearly and were doomed to lack future prospects. A character like Qi Fifan. Are you perhaps talking about that Yi Shiwen? A nearby disciple replied. Several disciples on the surrounding gave a clear, understanding look as if they knew that it could only be Yi Shiwen. I heard that even Luo Fengyi, Xie et al. Also died at his hands. A disciple exclaimed, "Really? No wonder, some time ago, the people of Luo clan were wildly looking for him in the entire Masha territory." Another disciple joined the discussion and said, "Is that so? No wonder. Otherwise, why do you think that Luo clan would be so angry all of a sudden? They had put every effort in training Luo Fengyi, and she was going to be the next person to enter the truth realm after Luo Yifan and could become a great truth level master. It could be said that the current generation of Luo clan was going to be headed by these two in the near future. I never thought that she would actually die here." The disciples explained, "Earlier, I heard that Yi Shiwen was also involved in the death of Luo Tian, so he was running away from Luo clan, but no one thought that he would actually kill the members of Luo clan instead." A disciple said in such a way as if he had actually witnessed this with his own eyes. Luo clan wants to conceal the news, but they cannot stop others from knowing. Almost everyone knows about this matter. This is fun, but I'm afraid that Yi Shiwen is not fully aware of Luo clan's influence, otherwise he would not have done things to send Luo clan into rage. I think he is well aware of that because I heard that the team that Luo clan sent later to find Yi Shiwen has also disappeared without a trace. I doubt that they have fallen in the hands of Yi Shiwen. It can be said that Luo clan has faced a huge loss, and although it cannot be said that they have been beaten, but they have been hurt pretty bad, that's for sure. But since there is no evidence this time, Luo clan must be having a feeling that their teeth have been knocked out. Another disciple said, Do you think that Luo clan is at disadvantage? Yes, they don't have evidence, but if there was evidence, then Yi Shiwen's family would have been eradicated by now. That's the code of conduct of Luo clan. It's enough for them to kill someone just based on suspicions, because according to their rules, killing a wrong person is fine, but not letting go a culprit. Well, let us not discuss about this anymore. You do not know about the overbearing attitude of Luo clan, and now that Yi Shiwen has beheaded so many of their members in such a short time, no matter what happens, it is going to become a big issue sooner or later. So when the time comes, do not get yourselves involved in this. After Hua Menghan heard these words, a somewhat worried look appeared on her face, but at this time Jing Yan'an smiled and said, "It should not be a problem. Brother Yi is very strong, and when the time comes he'll be regarded as a peerless talent, and the sect would come to take him under their care and personally train him. Even the rampant Luo clan would not be able to touch him." Everyone nodded, although some of them had not met him face to face, but they still held good impression about him. Yi Shiwen was critically decisive and made right decisions at the key moment. He was not attracted head over heels towards women, and there was no shred of arrogance in him around friends, and only seemed to show his arrogance to his enemies. Being friends with such a guy should be a good choice. Then suddenly in the distant horizon, a streamer flashed and a figure descended down from the sky. It was Luo Yifan, but at this time his complexion was ashen and completely pale. When the disciples in the surrounding area saw him like this, all of them suddenly went silent, because they did not want to incur the wrath of a mad god who seemed to be in such a state that he could kill indiscriminately if annoyed. 1 month he was looking for a whole month, but still no signs of Yi Shiwen, which was simply unimaginable for him. He had never encountered such a cunning enemy, like a mosquito that bit then flew away, then bit again. So annoying but also painful. Moreover, he sent several waves of core seed disciples, but they also completely suffered defeat, and what made him even more depressed was the disappearance of several waves of core seed disciple less, not to mention. He himself went almost everywhere to search for Yi Shiwen, but could not find him. He was simply depressed to death. He did not know that he was finding ways to intercept Yi Shiwen, and Yi Shiwen was also asking around to locate his position in order to intercept him. He never thought that Yi Shiwen would actually be so bold that he would dare to kill his henchmen. In short, he was depressed to death and had never encountered such a situation, though it was all coming to an end, because in addition to the core disciples, even the true disciples needed special approval to enter and wander inside Masha territory, and also required some special circumstances or reasons to go inside. This was the only opportunity to catch Yi Shiwen, as he must come out now, because if he didn't then, that would be equivalent to violation of the sect rules. Once he would come out, Luo Yifan planned to behead him once and forever, and as far as evidence was concerned, who needed that stuff? At this time, Luo Yifan's brain was completely overwhelmed with anger and was no longer thinking rationally. Luo Yifan arrived in the front of Hua Menghan and said in a cold voice, "Hua Menghan, I'm asking you one last time. Do you admit or not that my sister was killed by Yi Shiwen?" Luo Yifan's terrifying, imposing aura came out and tightly locked on Hua Menghan. She withstood such a horrifyingly heavy pressure, and her tender body, slightly trembling, but did not collapse, because she possessed some treasures that could resist against this terrifying, imposing aura, and she soon returned to a normal state. Luo Fangyi was killed and eaten by devils. Hua Menghan said in a calm and tranquil voice, although Luo Yifan's imposing aura was quite terrifying, but it was still just an imposing aura. He could dare to openly search for Yi Shiwen in order to kill him, but he definitely would never dare to hurt her. Otherwise, even a true disciple like him would not be able to escape death. If devils killed her, then why did not they kill you? Luo Yifan did not believe her words. Luo Fangyi was stronger than Hua Menghan and was strong enough to deal with those devils and could easily kill several of them. But why did she die and Hua Menghan survived? Such a lie could only deceive a child. I don't know about that. Why doesn't Brother Luo go and ask those devils? Hua Menghan said in a calm tone, Hua Menghan, don't you think that our Luo clan cannot get you? I know that your backing is not small, but you better not mess with us." Luo Yifan gritted his teeth and said he could not use brute force on her because, when she had joined the main sect, he had been warned by his granduncle that he must never provoke Hua Menghan. That idiot Luo Tian didn't know about this and had dared to attack Hua Menghan on his sister's command, but fortunately he did not succeed, otherwise it would have endangered the safety of entire Luo clan. To be continued. Chapter 155. NT. Thanks Jan Henrik, Dux, Germany, for sponsoring Chapter 155. Chapter 155 versus Luo Yifan. Luo clan was very much aggrieved because of this matter. How could Luo Tian be such a fool that he dared to lay hands on Hua Menghan? But fortunately he did not succeed. Although afterwards, Luo clan had to pay a lot just to subside this matter, but it was still better option than the destruction of the entire clan. However, Luo Tian had died and Luo clan wanted revenge badly, and though they could not lay hands on Hua Menghan, but they could crush that damned Yi Shiwen. You think you can protect Yi Shiwen? I'm going to kill him in front of you and let everyone know about the fate of those who dare to anger our Luo clan. Luo Yifan looked at Hua Menghan and said in a ferocious manner, "I don't need others to protect me." Suddenly, a burst of leisurely voice came from a distance and gradually started to come nearer, and soon a figure appeared in front of everyone. It was none other than Yi Shiwen, who was missing for almost a month. Seeing Yi Shiwen, Jing Yan'an and other disciples who were familiar with Yi Shiwen exposed faint smiles on their faces, and they also saw that his cultivation had once again become very profound and immeasurably deep, totally unpredictable, and now they could not even see through his cultivation level. Good, very good. Seeing Yi Shiwen, an intense killing intention appeared in the heart of Luo Yifan, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. Now that Yi Shiwen had appeared on his own accord, he made things easier for Luo Yifan. Luo Yifan did not even ask Yi Shiwen whether he was the one who killed the members of Luo clan, because at this time the intention to kill was storming endlessly in his chest, and he needed to kill Yi Shiwen to alleviate this killing intention from his heart. In the world of martial arts, in order to lead a pious life and concentrate on achieving the higher realms, he must discard anger, joy, and all other forms of emotions, because it was said that the existence of emotions could easily dominate one's sanity. But after meeting Yi Shiwen, he had become quite impulsive, as if Yi Shiwen was his ultimate nemesis. Luo Yifan immediately calculated and knew that there was a strange relationship of hatred between him and Yi Shiwen. They were the true adversaries of each other, and he must kill his nemesis Yi Shiwen. If he did not kill Yi Shiwen, then later, he would not be able to lead a pious life, and the road to practice would also become very difficult. Don't you think there's something wrong with Yi Zaiwen's brain? He knows that Brother Luo wants to kill him, but he still dares to appear right in front of him. What can he do? Now the trial has ended, and if he does not appear, then that would be contrary to the rules of the sect, and by that time Brother Luo can justifiably use force to deal with him. Yes, but I can see that Yi Shiwen looks very confident. Perhaps there is a degree of certainty in his action. I think he is trying to buy time until the elders and true disciples appear. At that time, it will be impossible for Brother Luo to kill him. Yi Shiwen, you should have waited to emerge later until the elders arrive, but now, no one can save you from dying. Luo Yifan looked at Yi Shiwen and said, he was looking at Yi Shiwen as if he was looking at a dead man. It's too early to say that now. Yi Shiwen smiled coldly, then turned his face towards Hua Menghan and slightly bowed to show his gratitude to her for not betraying him a moment ago. Yi Shiwen, you asked for it. This time I will so thoroughly kill you that for eternity you won't be able to ever reincarnate. Luo Yifan said and glared at Shiwen with his eyes filled with hatred. If that's the case, then why don't you try? Yi Shiwen indifferently said, and with a clang, he took out the long blade from the scabbard on his back. The Zhen Yuan was glowing above it, which suddenly turned into blade light and rushed towards Luo Yifan. Yi Shiwen had already reached the acme level of his blade technique, and now the power of the new moon beheader had gone far beyond his initial power. Perhaps now His skill of cold moon beheader technique had already surpassed the skill of the creator itself. He had already reached the acme level of new moon beheader, which should allow chopping out 9 blade shadows. But at present, Yishuin no longer rigidly adhered to the new moon beheader and could readily chop out hundreds of thousands of blade lights. Luo Yifan was completely surrounded by the endless barrage of Yi Zaiwen's blade attack, and even if he casted an agility technique, he could not escape. Such an insignificant technique can only be used by an insect. I'll let you witness the might of a genuinely strong master. Luo Yifan sneered, and with a flick of his hand, a sword appeared in his hand, and he instantly struck his sword towards the blade shadows, spread throughout the sky. Quai! It could be said that this sword was simply unmatched, and in an instant the speed of this sword attack had gone far beyond the speed of lightning. NT? Quai equals quick high speed. At this moment, it seemed as if the atmosphere had been stabbed and immediately punctured. However, the reaction of atmosphere was too slow. His sword had already cut through the atmosphere, but it exploded a moment later, which obviously showed the insane speed of this attack. Boom! This sword attack was extremely terrifying, and along with an unparalleled, terrifying breath, it instantly punctured the blade shadows that were spread everywhere. Luo Yifan was a true master, and his experience related to his martial skills had already risen to a very profound level, to the very extreme, and with only a single glance he immediately saw through the weakness of Yi Zaiwen's shadow blades, and under this sword attack, the blade light started to explode everywhere in the sky, and both attacks mutually obliterated each other. Endless explosions instantly sent shock waves in all directions. This was a collision between two horrifying forces, which caused even the space to distort. However, how could Yi Zaiwen's strength be so simple? In a flash, he chopped out his long blade and instantly used New Moon Beheader. And right after that, he chopped out a second time and maliciously unleashed Missing Moon Beheader, which was much more terrifying compared to the first blade attack, faster and much more precise. Almost at that moment, Luo Yifan felt a wave of murderous aura coming straight for him, and an amazing bladiki swept towards him from the air. A trace of surprise appeared on his face because he did not expect that Yi Shiwen would actually be able to attack back so quickly. And not just that, this blade technique clearly displayed a very level of understanding and comprehension, and also the conversion between various blade skills without the slightest stagnation between successive blade moves. How is this possible? Luo Yifan was somewhat baffled because he initially thought that this ant-like Yi Shiwen, who was merely a Xiantian level warrior, would be split in half by his sword attack. Luo Yifan instantly struck his sword several times, and each of these strikes was inducing mad fluctuations of Ling Qi in the atmosphere, and in a flash, the most brilliant sword light was issued towards Yi Shiwen. The space was immediately distorted, and Yi Zaiwen's figure was completely enveloped by the endless sword light. So fearful, Brother Luo is powerful indeed. This move is really too terrifying. It's just like the wrath of a god. With just one sword strike like this, even an entire mountain would be flattened. He is really worthy of being a true disciple, at once assumes an awe-inspiring pose and unleashes such a horrifying move. The disciples present in the surroundings suddenly exclaimed. The strength of this sword attack was terrifying and indeed worthy of being used by a true disciple. Xiantian realm and Truth realm were separated only by a layer, but according to the rumors, Yi Shiwen had massacred several masters of Xiantian 9th stage, Xiantian Great Realm, and even half-step Truth level. But everyone thought that Yi Shiwen would absolutely not be able to stop this horrifying move, used by a genuine true disciple. Even the masters of Truth level would find it difficult to deal with such an incomparably violent and horrifying attack. After all, swordsmen had always been well known for their strong attacks, let alone Yi Shiwen was merely a Xiantian level expert. It seemed as if the whole world was coercing on Yi Shiwen. This was the so-called power and influence of the Truth realm that could mobilize the world Ling Qi, just like Jin Qi Truth level masters could easily manipulating the world Ling Qi to crush Xiantian level masters. Boom! 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 Numerous huge air explosions occurred. setting off endless sandstorm that blew away everything, and event swept away stones with it. The sword key spread quickly like the lightning and formed dense clouds in the sky, like a giant net, and closed off all the escape routes for Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen had to admit that Luo Yifan was genuinely powerful. In that endless sea of sword key, Yi Zaiwen's slim figure seemed like a small boat swaying with the wind, and it seemed as if he would be submerged completely any second and get killed. Well, you can do only this much. Yi Shiwen stopped concealing his imposing aura and completely released it. A surge of terrifying aura went straight into the sky, and there were some of the world laws mixed in, clearly indicating that his terrifying, imposing aura was comparable to the masters of Truth Realm. What? How can Yi Shiwen possess such a terrifying, imposing aura? It is actually comparable to the Truth Realm and is definitely not inferior to that of Brother Luo. How did the news never spread that he has already stepped into the Truth Realm? If our sect has such a genius, then we should have already been informed about this, right? How is this possible? This is simply a miracle, a myth. He has recently joined the main sect, but he managed to become the chief of inner disciples, which was simply a miracle, and now he is comparable to the true disciples. This is simply a legend, a myth. If the news spread out, then it will certainly cause a sensation, and even the sect head will be alerted. There are certainly no limits to his future achievements. All of the disciples present, they were very surprised, not to mention Huang Menghan and the others who had already met Yi Shiwen once inside the Masha territory were even more surprised, as if they had just now witnessed a miracle, especially Huang Menghan. More than a year ago, when she had seen Yi Shiwen, he was only a Hotian level warrior, but in just 1 year he grew so terrifyingly powerful. She just could not believe it. She is also a warrior and naturally knew that it was very tough to surmount Xiantian realm. Even a genius could not do it so easily, but Yi Shiwen did it in almost a year's time. It was said that Truth Realm was a lifetime worth of goal for many disciples, but Yi Shiwen achieved it so easily. The more baffling was the fact that earlier, when Yi Shiwen killed Luo Fangyi, Huang Menghan and her friends had seen that Yi Zaiwen's strength was actually comparable to the masters of half-step Truth Realm. Suddenly, many people were giving dumbfounded looks to Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen shouted and chopped out his long blade, and once again, it seemed as if the blade shadows completely filled the entire world. Ling Qi started to surge crazily and easily suppressed the sword light coming towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Zaiwen's blade light directly crushed the sword light attack of Luo Yifan. One could see that in the face of blade light, the sword key seemed simply helpless. NT, sword key equals sword light, bladiki equals blade light. Luo Yifan's sword cultivation was already at a profound level, and his striking power was matchless. But Yi Shiwen was also a matchless blade master, and his insight of blade cultivation was at an even higher level and much more terrifying. So his blade attack was extremely powerful compared to the sword attack of Luo Yifan. To be continued. Chapter 156. NT. Thanks Lucas Pechtel, U.S., for sponsoring Chapter 156. Chapter 156. Completely suppressed Tianyuan mirror was hidden in Yi Zaiwen's body, and ordinary attacks simply could not hurt him. Not to mention, his body had become incomparably tough after practicing tyrant body technique. Yi Shiwen could scrupulously attack and sustain attacks as well, disregarding his own safety, but Luo Yifan could not be so unscrupulous like him. Although Luo Yifan's body was very strong, but not so abnormally formidable like Yi Shiwen, and the uniformly powerful attacks would be able to seriously wound him. Missing Moon Beheader. Yi Shiwen summoned the Missing Moon Beheader's blade intention, which congealed several blade diagrams in the sky that started to emit endless amount of blade light in the air, which ultimately condensed into a huge blade light, and all of a sudden, it went towards Luo Yifan. Very bright and brilliant blade light filled the entire atmosphere and rushed through the air, drawing dazzling marks in the sky. Boom! Luo Yifan immediately struck, his sword which severely clashed with the blade light, and suddenly The tremendous power present in the collision gave rise to mighty shock waves and a giant storm. Luo Yifan was blasted away and sent flying directly by the impact of this terrifying power. He spurted out a mouthful of blood. His body somersaulted several times in the midair and severely fell down on the ground. How is this possible? Luo Yifan looked incredibly at Yi Shiwen. How could he be so formidable? Even if he just stepped into the truth realm, he should not be so powerful after all. He himself had stepped into the truth realm almost a decade ago. How was he losing to a man who recently stepped into the truth realm? Monster. In the end, what kind of monster was he? How could he possibly be so formidable? NT? I am using the term monster for evildoer as suggested by some readers. Monster, you have certainly been possessed by a devil. I'm sure about it. You must have ventured into the depths of Masha territory, and there you have been possessed by the Devil Emperor, who wants to subvert my Yuan school. Luo Yifan suddenly shouted in a loud. How could he guess that Yi Shiwen actually possessed a mysterious space as a hidden weapon that helped him in comprehending the world laws quickly? And due to that, he was able to achieve the fighting strength of a master of truth realm so fast. Although Luo Yifan stepped into the truth realm almost 10 years earlier, but Yi Shiwen had a mysterious space, and so long as he kept on burning spirit stones and supplying Lingqi to the mysterious space unceasingly, his understanding would continue to rise exponentially. In the last few days, Yi Shiwen had almost completely burned his total stock of spirit stones, and only a mere 1,000 spirit stones remained in the stock. Thanks to that, his understanding had increased by leaps and bounds in the past few days, and right now his fighting strength was even more than that of Luo Yifan. Although at present, Yi Zaiwen's fighting strength had not yet reached the peak of the first stage of Truth Realm, but it had already surpassed the fighting strength of Luo Yifan. Shua! As an answer to Luo Yifan's loud shout, accompanied by a sharp piercing sound and displaying a magnificent brilliance in the sky, Yi Shiwen chopped out a terrifying blade light towards him. This time, Luo Yifan did not show his arrogance, and observed carefully without daring to take Yi Zaiwen's attack head-on, and in a flash he leapt several dozen feet back to escape the range of this blade attack. Boom! The brilliant blade light pounded on the ground, directly resulting in a more than 10 meters wide and 5 or 6 meters deep crater. In the end, what is the background of this Yi Shiwen? I initially heard that he had beheaded Luo Fangyi, which is surprising enough, and now he is even suppressing a true disciple like Luo Yifan as if it's a child's play for him. He truly is a monster. Brother Luo's sword technique is considered as the strongest sword technique in the younger generation. But how is a newbie like Yi Shiwen oppressing him? I agree, this is just way too weird. At this strange scene, many of the spectating disciples secretly cursed in their hearts, but they seemed very amazed on the outside. He is simply a peerless genius, and his talent is so fearful in such a short period of time, his cultivation enhanced to such an extent. This is the kind of talent which defies the heaven's will. In the future, perhaps he will certainly enter the ranks of one of the 4 invincible disciples. Originally, everyone thought that if Luo Yifan attacked Yi Shiwen, then it would certainly cause his doom. The only way out left for him would be to buy time until the elders and true disciples arrived. Otherwise, escaping this disaster would be impossible for Yi Shiwen. However, now, even if Luo Yifan was trying his best and going all out, he was still being completely suppressed by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen, I admit defeat and give up on this fight. I will investigate the matter about my sister's death once again. At this time, Luo Yifan surprisingly said this, but at the same time, a sly look flashed in his eyes. The always overbearing and rampant Luo Yifan had actually admitted defeat in front of so many disciples, and he was compelled to ascend into the sky after being forced into a corner by Yi Shiwen and had nowhere left to escape. Yi Shiwen, we cannot let him escape. It is apparent from the look in his eyes that he is planning something to kill you. If you don't stop him now, he will have a respite and immediately come back to fight again. This man is strong, but also has brains. If we let him escape, then it will later lead to a huge hassle. At this time, Yimo's voice suddenly echoed in Yi Zaiwen's mind. Precisely, this is a very good opportunity, since he is the one who tried to intercept you first, so it's equally fair for you to use this as a good opportunity and excuse to settle the score with him, and no one can say anything. Yi Shiwen had a deadpan look on his face, but he directly chopped out his blade. He simply did not waste any time, as if Luo Yifan's words did not have any influence on him. Yi Shiwen was not a dumb person. He knew very well that Luo Yifan was trying to take advantage from this situation, so how could he possibly believe such nonsense? Yi Shiwen was chopping his long blade one after another, and rays of blade light scattered throughout the sky, as if the multicolored sunlight was dazzling the entire sky, and the terrifying blade attack rushed towards Luo Yifan. Luo Yifan was simply depressed to death in his heart. Who would have thought that he would be suppressed by the same ant-like individual he looked down upon? Since his debut in the world of martial arts, Luo Yifan had been classified as a genius until now, as far as growth rate was considered, and now he was considered an invincible, true disciple, and he undoubtedly possessed a tyrannical strength. He never paid attention to Yi Shiwen and was quite indifferent about his strength, although Yi Shiwen might have killed Luo Fengyi as well as those other masters. But even so, he thought that a half-step truth-level master like Yi Shiwen could never be his opponent. Originally, he had always assumed that Yi Shiwen could never be his opponent and could be readily crushed like an ant. But at this moment, this ant had compelled his arrogant head to be bowed down in submission. He did not know how Yi Shiwen had managed to enhance his cultivation so dramatically in such a short time, and his heart was completely filled with hatred at his current situation. Yi Shiwen, are you really not going to give face to our Luo clan? Luo Yifan shouted while fleeing away from Yi Shiwen. A truth-level master could flee extremely fast. His figure almost turned into a blur and instantly disappeared, leaving after images. He rushed towards the distant horizon, and his figure seemed to have left a trail of rainbow on the horizon. In any case, I have already offended, so might as well offend all the way to the very end. Yi Shiwen remained unmoved and said, if there was a possibility he would like less trouble, of course he was very much disgusted by Luo Yifan and other arrogant people, and he would certainly like to crush their arrogance. He was very much willing to teach a proper lesson to these rich shenanigans, who did not consider people as people, could betray in a blink of an eye, and could unreasonably take lives as if there was no value of human life in their eyes. No matter what you say using that glib tongue of yours, today, don't even expect to run away from me. All this time, you were searching for me to kill me. Now prepare yourself to face consequences. Yi Shiwen said, and a cold look appeared on his face. His speed was not slow either, and he released several blade attacks towards escaping Luo Yifan. The blade light pierced through the sky, just like a meteor, across the mountains, and went straight towards Luo Yifan as if chasing after him, while few blade lights branched off and blocked all of his escape routes. Luo Yifan suddenly roared repeatedly, Yao Jojo sword, execute this evil monster. In the hand of Luo Yifan, the sword was suddenly enveloped in an endless amount of Jinyuan, and it seemed like his whole body had been integrated together with his sword. This was man-sword unification, which instantly broke open an endless void and went towards the blade light. Luo Yifan had already exhausted all his efforts, so he resorted to using his best shot and took direct incarnation of the sword, which seemed to have split the sky and severely collided with the blade light. Boom! An endless blast instantly engulfed the entire space, and the surrounding space seemed just like the rippling surface of water, while the Lingqi also started to shake violently in the atmosphere. Shabu! 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 Yi Shiwen continued chopping his long blade non-stop, one after another, and each time it seemed as if the whole world would be chopped down into pieces. Yi Shiwen, today you will die. Luo Yifan's eyes were bloodshot, and his hand holding the sword had also turned bloody as he recklessly hacked his sword. The blade light released by Yi Shiwen was hacked and directly scattered in the form of world Lingqi throughout the atmosphere. From afar, Luo Yifan looked like a scarlet ancient killing god who had come to hack down and exterminate the heaven itself. Luo Yifan continued to indiscriminately hack down and scatter the blade lights released by Yi Xuan. Whenever he would unleash his sword attack, it seemed as if the whole world would be hacked down and shattered, while a long scarlet sword key rushed through the sky which seemed to directly split the world into two halves. A cold look appeared on Yi Zaiwen's face, and he instantly chopped out his long blade. A golden light shone, and an incomparably horrifying and fluctuating bladiki instantly congealed and suddenly rushed forward, as if penetrating through the world itself. Boom! The two attacks fiercely collided, and a huge explosion occurred, and its incredible might instantly caused powerful storms of Lingqi, which swept across everything along with it. In the endless turmoil of Lingqi's storm, a figure was blasted away and was sent flying due to the explosion. It was Luo Yifan who could not withstand the terrifying might of this explosion and was directly sent flying. However, in the next instant, Yi Xuan had actually arrived in front of him and then rushed ahead of him. How could he be such a tough opponent? Luo Yifan never thought that Yi Xuan would actually turn out to be such a tough opponent. Luo Yifan's sword key swayed and firmly covered his body in order to protect him and not allow Yi Xuan to come close. Both attacks collided in the sky and caused a massive explosion. The sword key and bladiki started to run amok and wantonly rampaging the surrounding area. The disciples watching from below immediately had to prop up Xin Yuan in order to protect themselves, so as to avoid getting accidentally injured. After all, prevention was obviously better than cure. Yi Xuan sneered, but he knew that as the time was passing, Luo Yifan was also falling under the wind gradually. Several small and large wounds had appeared on the body of Luo Yifan, although he was trying his best to defend, but he was still being cut and injured non-stop by Yi Xuan. Just when Yi Xuan was planning to give him a fatal blow, suddenly a burst of loud shout echoed in the sky. "Stop!" A horrifying giant hand descended from the sky, grasped both the blade light and sword key, and instantly destroyed them. To be continued. Chapter 157. NT. Thanks Lucas Pechtel, U.S., for sponsoring Chapter 157. Chapter 157. War of Words. Stop! A horrifying giant hand descended from the sky, grasped both the blade light and sword key, and instantly destroyed them. Those extremely sharp and terrifying attacks were directly grasped in that big hand and were extinguished without a trace. There simply was no room for any resistance, and both attacks were immediately obliterated after getting caught. What are you two trying to do? A rainbow appeared in the distant sky, and in a flash an old man in black clothes came flying and stopped in front of the two men. Elder Jing Xian, this Yi Xuan has been possessed by the Devil Emperor in the depths of Masha territory and is basically a devil. Luo Yifan hastily said, "Ah." Elder Jing Xian looked at Yi Xuan and said in a cold voice. Yi Xuan looked at that Elder Jing Xian and narrowed his eyes, while at this time Yumo's voice echoed in his mind. "Yi Xuan, you have to be careful of this old man. I had discovered that he was hiding in a distant place and did not come out before I only considered him as the elder who protects the disciples. But when Luo Yifan was trying to bully you a moment ago, he did not come out, and now that you have an upper hand, he came out. I think he has some ill intentions." Yi Xuan secretly nodded in his heart, and there was quite a bad look in the eyes of this elder Jing Xian. He definitely had ill intentions and was planning to do something bad in the future. "Why don't you speak?" The elder Jing Xian asked in a cold voice. "What do I need to say?" Yi Xuan indifferently said, "Elder Jing Xian, he has nothing to say. He is certainly the spy of those devils." Luo Yifan stubbornly stared at Yi Xuan with a pernicious look in his eyes. "I also think that he looks very suspicious. Look how I use my soul surgery technique to search your soul and uncover all your secrets." Elder Jing Xian said about the vicious method of soul surgery technique, which was extremely malicious and was so deadly that it was rarely used to interrogate prisoners, unless the prisoner was already condemned, or it was directly used on the caught devil masters, because after the soul surgery technique was used, the entire soul would collapse. It was said that the person would go crazy or turn into a fool or directly die. When Luo Yifan heard this, he grinned fiendishly because soon Yi Shiwen was going to die. There was a faint thrill and pleasant sensation in his heart. Who do you think you are? You actually dared to even think about searching my soul. Yi Shiwen coldly stared at that elder Jingxian. Although he knew deep in his heart that this elder Jingxian should be a lot stronger than him, but he was not scared even the slightest. I am now comparable to the Truth Realm Masters and soon going to get promoted as an authentic true disciple. You're just an elder and share position with me quite a bit. However, you dare to treat me like a devil spy and even mention searching my soul. You are really quite audacious. The complexion of Elder Jing Xian stayed unchanged. He knew that Yi Shiwen was aware of the truth, but this time he was already determined that he would not let him off. Otherwise, a peerless genius like him would become a potential threat in the future. Yi Shiwen must never be allowed to grow, or he might bring a disaster upon him. Well, you have quite a razor-sharp mouth, kid. Elder Jing Xian sneered and said, It does not matter even if you have a glib tongue. It will be of no use today because this old man will definitely search your soul. After saying this, Elder Jing Xian congealed a big hand which was made up of world Lingqi and directly slammed towards Yishuan. Shwa! A dazzling blade light flashed, and a shaking bladiki was instantly chopped out. Yishuan definitely was not the kind of person who would sit still, and now that he knew that other party had ill intentions and wanted to kill him, it was even more impossible for him to place his own destiny in the hands of others. Boom! This long bladiki was certainly dazzling, just like the stars in a starry sky, and then it fiercely fell towards that big, gasified hand and collided. The gasified big hand was instantly split open, and an endless amount of Lingqi dispersed wantonly in the atmosphere. Old guy, I will sue you in front of the Elders' Council and make you die without a burial ground. Yi Shiwen shouted. If he was just an inner disciple, then no would bother listening to him. But at present he was comparable to the true disciples, though his inner state had not yet stepped into the truth realm. But he possessed the strength of truth realm, so what was the difference between him and other true disciples? The elder Jing Xian did not plan to stop. Instead, he started to put an even greater intensity in his attacks in order to directly kill Yishuan. Stop! A loud shout came from the sky, and a sharp sword key fell directly from the sky and instantly eliminated the attack of elder Jing Xian. Everyone looked up and saw that Lin Zhantian was flying down, leaving a trail of rainbow in the sky, and started slowly descending from the clouds, and said to Jing Xian, Brother Jing Xian, brother, what made you attack a disciple? Ling Zhantian was slowly coming more and more near. At this time, Jing Xian suddenly cursed in his heart at the unexpected appearance of Lin Zhantian. But he did not continue to attack Yishuan, because now that Lin Zhantian was here, he knew that he could definitely not make a misstep. Brother Lin, I suspect that he has been possessed by a devil and is actually their spy. Jing Xian answered, Do you have evidence? Lin Zhantian said, Of course, in such a short time, this Yi Zaiwen's cultivation has actually enhanced by a great deal. Now he is actually comparable to the true disciples. This is really very suspicious and a strong reason to suspect that he is a spy of devils. At this time, Luo Yifan said in a loud voice, This is such a bullshit reason. Well, I can say the same about you. I can easily suspect that the dog and pig-like people of Luo clan, who are actually able to occupy high positions and are able to practice to such great extent, are certainly possessed by the devils, maybe colluding together with them in order to subvert the rule of Yi Yuan school. Yi Shiwen sneered and said, You are courting death. Luo Yifan shouted, and it seemed as if he would once again start fighting with Yi Shiwen. It just so happens you just now tried to kill me to settle my old accounts with Luo clan, and I'd like to see how the Elders' Council intends to say about this matter, which considers the life and death of a truth-level disciple. Your Luo clan intended to intercept and kill me in the Masha territory, so Luo clan will have to give a proper explanation. Yi Shiwen smiled and said in a cold voice, He knew that reasoning was sometimes very important, but sometimes it was not worth mentioning. If Yi Shiwen had been killed here, why would Luo Yifan give explanation to anyone? It was not important. Nobody would bother about a dead man, an inner disciple, and try to mess with Luo clan. But now, since Yi Shiwen did not die, the situation was completely different. Elder Council was basically the ruling place because of the presence of sect head, Tangshan Elder, and the leaders of various peaks in the sect. Many high-level experts would basically enter the depths of space and time and stay there all year round, and would not easily come out. Therefore, the lower-level elders were made responsible for handling matters in their absence. Of course, Elder Council was only alerted when the matter involved elders or true disciples. Although right now Yi Shiwen was not a true disciple, but his fighting strength was comparable to a truth-level master, and this was a sufficient reason to alert the Elders' Council. Luo Yifan's complexion suddenly turned unsightly. If it was before that Yi Shiwen had dared to speak in front of him, he would have crushed him with just a slap. But now was not the same. Yi Zaiwen's strength increased by leaps and bounds, to an extent that even he did not know the upper limit of his strength. He could not beat Yi Shiwen. Neither could he talk back. All he was doing was giving a cold look to Yi Shiwen. Well, you dare to frequently shout in front of me. He is really a devil, and is definitely under the control of a devil. Elder Jing Xian shouted. The disciples standing in the surroundings were also hearing their conversation. Immediately, several doubts appeared in their hearts. It was no wonder. After all, Yi Zaiwen's strength increased way too fast, far more than the fastest point they could ever imagine. After Masha territory trial finished, his strength actually exceeded that of all core disciples, and even a true disciple like Luo Yifan was not his match anymore. They had seen with their own eyes that even a true disciple like Luo Yifan had been completely cornered by Yi Shiwen, and if Elder Jing Xian had not interfered, then perhaps things would have been very dangerous for Luo Yifan. Yi Shiwen even had the audacity to actually challenge a supermaster like Jing Xian, who was actually at the third stage of Truth Realm. Was he really possessed by a devil? Elder Jing Xian, this matter of being controlled by the devil cannot be taken lightly, and we must avoid hasty judgment. If, according to what you said, Luo Yifan actually tried to intercept and kill the peerless genius of our Yuan school on the spot, I think he was able to do such a lunatic thing because it is actually him who is under the control of devils. Lin Jintian lightly said, but it was actually in an undeniable tone. How can you say that? Luo Yifan has performed many merits in our Yuan school. How can he possibly be a devil spy? Elder Jing Xian gritted his teeth and said he certainly knew that their so-called evidence was simply irrational, but he never thought that Lin Jintian would actually not give him face and would so easily debunk this affair. Today's matter is not over yet. It won't end until your Luo clan gives me an explanation about their actions. Yi Shiwen sneered and said, if there was a mistake, it was the mistake of the situation itself. Elder Jing Xian finally said in a somewhat relaxed manner. He knew that once this matter went too far and reached the ears of the Elders' Council, it would mean a lot of trouble because those old guys held major power in the sect. Then, in accordance to what you say, I can also kill him when I get an opportunity, and when asked for an explanation, I can say that it's not my mistake, it's the mistake of the situation itself. Yi Shiwen said in an unforgiving manner, You do not change the subject. Now you want others to give an explanation. Why don't you explain how your cultivation suddenly increased by leaps and bounds, and that too so fast? Elder Jing Xian clamored and did not allow Yi Shiwen to change the subject, but he himself managed to change the subject from Luo Yifan to Yi Shiwen by asking about the reason behind his bizarre cultivation growth. Why do I need to explain it to you? Who do you think you are? To me, you are no different than a pig who cannot understand my practice speed. Yi Shiwen rambled and simply wasn't afraid of him, because he knew that Yuan school was not going to pursue this matter. Even those true disciples and elders kept many secrets from their fortuitous encounters and adventures. So long as they did not harm the integrity of the sect, Yuan school would not try to investigate into their secrets. Brother Jing Xian, This matter is not something you and I can solve. Luo Yifan tried to intercept Yi Shiwen, and ill report this to the Elder Council. Even if Yi Shiwen also falls under suspicion, the Elder Council will pass the final judgment. You must know that it simply does not fall under your jurisdiction. Lin Jintian said in a cold voice. To be continued. NT. Now I will focus on regular chapters. The queue is finally over. Laughing face. Chapter 158. NT. Regular chapter. Enjoy. Chapter 158. Qingfeng Mountain's origins, Brother Jingxian. This matter is not something you and I can solve. Luo Yifan tried to intercept Yi Shiwen, and ill report this to the Elder Council. Even if Yi Shiwen also falls under suspicion, the Elder Council will pass the final judgment. You must know that it simply does not fall under your jurisdiction. Lin Jintian said in a cold voice. It is time that people come to know that they cannot bully the people of our Qingfeng mountain vein. Let's go. Lin Jiantian said to Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen did not hesitate and followed Lin Jiantian. And in a flash, both of them disappeared into the horizon. Luo Yifan looked at their leaving figures, and his face immediately flushed with anger. He had never hated someone so much in his entire life. He determined in his heart that Yi Shiwen must be cut to pieces. Standing on one side, the complexion on Elder Jin Xian's face did not look good. He was contemplating countermeasures, because if this matter was referred to the Elders' Council, then things would no longer be so simple in the end. Yi Shiwen was flying behind Lin Jiantian, and in a while they soon crossed a very far distance. Yi Shiwen, you really have my admiration. Lin Jiantian said. Yi Shiwen smiled. A rare embarrassed look appeared on his face. Lin Jiantian was his elder, and seemed to have a great relationship with his father. And not just that, he had repeatedly saved him on several occasions, so Yi Shiwen felt very relaxed in front of him. Yi Shiwen was not as reserved in front of him as he used to be in front of others. Not to mention, Ling Jiantian had saved him many times. I do not think so. Yi Shiwen said in a polite manner, but this was obviously not true. He knew very well that both his cultivation and strength had reached a terrifying level during the time he spent in Masha territory, which far exceeded his own expectations. Although he had not yet set foot into the truth realm, but it was only a matter of time, he believed that he would be able to achieve it very soon. Your father had told me earlier that you suddenly got enlightenment one day, but I did not think that your cultivation will reach all the way to the truth realm in such a short time. Lin Jiantian said with a smile. There are rumors that ancient experts used to suddenly get enlightenment and their cultivation soared instantly. Previously, I considered those rumors as myths and legends, but now after seeing you, I have to come to believe that maybe people like that actually existed. Yi Shiwen smiled, but did not speak, because he knew that it was not the result of enlightenment. It was actually the mysterious space in his mind that was actually the root cause behind his cultivation increasing by leaps and bounds. But when his father had asked him, he casually said that it was due to the enlightenment, and it became the best excuse to cover up his secret, because enlightenment was actually very difficult to explain or understand. There were a lot of unexplainable things in this world, and gaining enlightenment was a way to open the door to understand these things, but it was very hard to achieve. You are very fortunate, and you must cherish it, Lin Jiantian said, but in spite of your peerless talent, so long as you think that you are doing the right thing and want help from this old guy, remember I am still alive and would certainly lend a hand. I can also provide shelter to a junior like you if you are ever in danger. Yi Shiwen smiled. Lin Jiantian was a talent from over 100 years ago, and as a true master, his life was only just starting. Comparing with the lifespan of an ordinary human, he was just like a 20-years-old guy. However, Lin Jiantian was a 100-year-old genius and was actually able to reach the peak of third stage of Truth Realm. It could be said that this was a very high achievement. As far as Yi Zaiwen's perception of cultivation level was concerned, now that his fighting strength increased dramatically and reached all the way to the Truth Realm, The cultivation level of other people no longer appeared blurred to him, as it used to be in the past. Truth-level masters were very enigmatic, and it was difficult to ascertain their strengths. But now their strength or cultivation level no longer looked so unfathomable to Yixuan. Previously, Yixuan always thought that the ancestor of Qingfeng Mountain Subschool, Lin Zhantian, was a Xiantian level master and must be at the peak of Xiantian 9th stage, but this time he was able to completely understand that he was actually a truth level master. In fact, he was at the peak of truth 3rd stage and was much stronger than Elder Jingxian. So, when Elder Jingxian had seen Lin Zhantian coming, he tactfully decided to pull back his hands because he knew that he was not a match of Lin Zhantian. During this time, you have developed a lot. Lin Zhantian was talking about the time period during which Yixuan had come to the main sect and continued to cause uproars throughout the sect. As the youngest son of an old friend, he was very concerned about him. Not to mention, he also wanted that Yixuan must focus on practice. As long as you show enough potential and perform enough merits for the sect, Luo clan won't be able to touch you. Yixuan nodded. He also knew that, according to the notion of Yuan school, the most important thing was talent and ability as well as strength. Wasn't this so-called Luo clan running amok because of its strength? Similarly, if Yixuan displayed exceptional strength and enough talent, then the sect would have admiration for him. At that time, Luo clan would naturally not be so reckless. It is my fault that I did not make things clear in the beginning. I did not expect that your strength would increase so fast that you would actually achieve the strength of Truth Realm. Lin Zhantian said, although our Qingfeng mountain veins are not very strong, but it has some influence, and the founder of our Qingfeng mountain vein is among the group of Taishang elders. Yixuan was surprised a moment. He did not expect that the founder of Qingfeng Mountain Subschool was actually a Taishang elder. This was far beyond his expectation. One must know that there were very few Taishang elders in Yuan schools, and not many of the sub-school were founded by Taishang elders, except the 3 major sub-school. There were only 5 or 6 sub-schools founded by a Taishang elder, and without exception, all of these sub-schools were considered the most formidable. Among all of the sub-schools, the Qingfeng Mountain Sub-School could only be regarded as a medium-level sub-school among so many sub-schools, so Yixuan never thought that a medium-level sub-school had actually been founded by a Taishang elder. However, if Qingfeng Mountain did not have the strong backing of Yuan school, then how they could even secure blood, yuan fruit, and other material treasures? They would already have been robbed long ago. Teacher Ancestor, His Holiness, is very satisfied from your performance. Lin Zhantian said, all these years, the arrogance of the people of Luo clan has really crossed the limit and gone too far. They dragged you in such a situation. Not to mention, you are not at wrong and your actions are supported by right reasons. If people of Luo clan are not affable, then our Qingfeng mountain vein is not soft persimmon either. Lin Zhantian lightly said, but his tone was unquestionably overbearing, justifying the influence of Qingfeng mountain vein. Not to mention, it was obvious from Lin Zhantian's explanation that Qingfeng mountain vein would never allow others to hurt their disciple. Yuan school was like a crisscross of an organization and had several factions. A faction was also an organization with its own set of disciples. And these disciples also belonged to top 10 peaks. Then they had relationships with their respective sub-schools as well, and so on. Yixuan was the star of Qingfeng Mountain, even if he now belonged to the main sect. But it would never change the fact that he came from Qingfeng Mountain Sub-School. He was a disciple of main sect, but he was also a disciple of Qingfeng Mountain Sub-School. He enjoyed the blessings of the seniors of Qingfeng Mountain, but also must take the responsibility to look after the later generations. There were all kinds of complicated relations, and if one wanted to become a leader, one would have to spend a lot of time sorting out these relationships, regulating conflicts between these factions, and in the future, Yixuan did not want to spend most of his time sorting out these problems and relationships. Before, I also wanted to let you grow freely, so I did not bring you with me to meet him. But now I think you can go ahead and make a contact in advance. I will take you to meet the founder. Lin Zhantian said, you must be very surprised knowing about the semblance of our vein, right? Lin Jiantian read the surprised look on Yi Zaiwen's face and seemed to have guessed what he was thinking at the moment. He somewhat sighed with emotion. In the past, had a similar surprised reaction like Yi Shiwen when he had come to know about the true strength of Qingfeng Mountain Vein. There were a lot of people in Yuan School who did not know about the secret. Our vein is rather special. It's not the same as the other one because we are relatively low-key compared to them. Lin Jiantian laughed and said, "So people outside do not know that we are in this vein. Even the disciples of our own Qingfeng Mountain Vein do not anything about this secret vein, because only those who have reached the truth realm are considered the members of this secret vein. But most of these truth level members are in the depths of space and time and practicing. They don't come out much often." And there are actually 2 veins of Qingfeng Mountain Subschool. First one is weak and known to everyone. Second is a secret vein which accepts only truth-level disciples from Qingfeng Mountain as members. In fact, the founder of our vein was actually the closing disciple of the patriarch of Yuan School. When he got old, he handed his legacies down to his closing disciple. This continued for generations, but we have always been relatively low-key, slowly working in the shadows. Lin Jiantian said, "And closing disciples equals last disciple of a master." Seeing the confused look on Yi Zaiwen's face, Lin Jiantian began to tell Yi Shiwen about the origin of this vein. The founder of Qingfeng Mountain Vein was actually the youngest closing disciple of Yuan School's patriarch, who was already reaching the final years of his life. After his skill enhanced, he left Yuan School and went out. Actually, at that time, the governance of Yuan School was in the hands of the other senior, closing disciples of the patriarch. The 10 great disciples had firmly grasped full control over the entire Yuan School and did not want to welcome him. After all, if he joined then, it would certainly disrupt the existing equilibrium of power, and they did not want that to happen. Qingfeng Mountain Vein's founder was not willing to start conflict with his fellow brothers and also had no interest in the struggle for power. So he left the main sect and went to the Qingfeng Mountain, where he established the Qingfeng Mountain Vein and handed down all his techniques and legacies, taught by the patriarch of Yuan School himself, and it now existed as the branch of Yuan School till present. Yi Shiwen also came to understand the reason that Qingfeng Mountain Vein maintained a low key because of the other 10 main veins, because they would be scared that Qingfeng Mountain Vein would become extremely strong and might take away their share. So this was for the best of all. However, Yi Shiwen finally understood that no wonder there were so many similarities between Qingfeng Mountain Subschool and Yuan School's main sect, and it was also able to monopolize a treasure like blood yuan fruit for so many years. To be continued, and Q is open for sponsored chapters. Chapter 159 and 160 will be regular chapters. Chapter 159. This is a regular chapter, but get ready for huge explanations. Face with Deng and joy. Chapter 159 Conference of Elders. Yi Shiwen didn't know where they were heading, was just following Lin Jiantian to the depths of Yuan School to meet the founder of Qingfeng Mountain Veins. Within a deep space of Tianfeng of Yuan School, the space was very small and was only able to accommodate a large palace. And inside the palace, there was an office where high-level officials of Yuan School would gather to have discussions on various important matters. In a giant conference room, a circular round table was placed in the middle. There were many elders seated around the round table. At the midpoint of the round table, a white-robed middle-aged man was sitting. One would be surprised to see that this man's facial features looked very ordinary and very amiable. But all of the elders present there knew that they must never dare to underestimate him, because he was the head of Yuan School, Wu Patian, the supreme leader of Yuan School, who held the fate of people of Yuan School in his grasp. Wu Patian glanced at everyone present there. Among the elders, there were the merit elder, penalty elder, and many other elders had come to participate in this conference, and all of them held high positions in Yuan School. Were extremely strong. In fact, even the weakest among them was a super master of Truth 9th stage, and there were few who were already in the legendary realm like Wu Patian, although they were not among the highest cultivation group of people in Yuan school. But there was no doubt that this group of people held the fate of a lot of people in Yuan school. As we all know, 10 days later, on the Qianji Island in the East China Sea, a meeting of the warriors of several major forces is going to take place, including our Yuan school. Wu Patian glanced at the crowd and lightly said, "Yes, we have received their invitation, and also received the news that the imperial family is also rushing there." A penalty elder said, "Well, this time the imperial family thinks that other people do not know the secret. In fact, how can we not know? They just want to use this devil invasion as an opportunity to form an allied force. Then the four sects will have joined forces under the leadership of royal family, and that would complete the real reunification." The merit elder said with a disdained look on his face, "This is something that even the founding emperor failed to achieve, and now this young emperor actually wants to do so. What a joke! Although we are not afraid of the royal family, but we really don't have an alternative. This emperor is considered as an outstanding personality of this generation and relies on the strength of dragon qi, although he is less than 100 years old. But he already possesses unfathomable skill, and I am afraid his strength is actually comparable to the legendary masters. No wonder he is ambitious enough to plan and make something work that even the late emperor couldn't achieve." Wu Patian continued to explain, "The intentions of other three forces are still unknown, so this time being the team leader, you must be careful, Wang Meishing. There was a man sitting nearby Wu Patian, and one would be surprised to find that he had an appearance of a 20-year-old boy, looked very charming, and even had somewhat seductive demeanor, but he was a man. At this time there was a malignant look on his face. Wang Meishing looked charming and pretty, but he was actually a very vicious person. It was hard to guess how many devil masters he had personally killed, and his cultivation had already reached the legendary realm. No wonder he was worthy of being the deputy head of Yuan school. If they dare to stretch their dog paws randomly, I would love to dare and chop them off," Wang Meishing said in a murderous and imposing tone, but still looked extremely charming, though he was the owner of a manly voice. "This time, we are getting a very good opportunity to display the formidable strength of our Yuan school," Wu Patian lightly said. "Especially among inner disciples, there is a particularly good seed." "Yes, Yishuan, I know, but this Yishuan can also stir up trouble. Not much time has passed since he joined the main sect, but he has already offended so many people, and he has also killed a lot of elite disciples, including many of the elite core disciples." At this time, a middle-aged man dressed in brown robe said, "This person is not just an evildoer, but is also a scourge. It is best to eradicate him as early as possible." The brown-robed man continued to speak. "I also know that in such a short time the cultivation of this kid has advanced by leaps and bounds. I suspect that he is actually a devil spy who has come to subvert our Yuan school." "Tian Wushuang, what you are saying is wrong." At this time, a purple-robed old man sitting next to the brown-robed man said, "According to what you say, from now onwards, our Yuan school cannot have peerless geniuses in the future, because as long as the genius is an evildoer, we will consider that he has been under the control of devils and eradicate him. Then how will our Yuan school develop like this? Isn't our Yuan school pursuing peerless talents such as Yi Shiwen? Natural, high and absolute talent. Maybe in the future he will reach the level of the 4 invincible disciples." The purple-robed old man continued, "I have not seen such an outstanding talent ever in my life, and you want to eradicate such a disciple. Tian Wushuang, I know you are very close to the Luo clan, but you are willing to give up on such a talent for the personal gain of Luo clan. You do not deserve to work as an elder of our sect." The purple-robed man bluntly said without reservation. He was the penalty elder of Yuan school and was in charge of the penalty palace. He was an upright man and never stooped to flattery, and nothing was hidden from his eyes. Neither was he the type of person who would ignore these matters. "What did you say? How dare you insult me, you stubborn donkey?" Tian Wushuang suddenly got up from his seat and said in an angry voice, "So what if I did? Luo clan is radically a nest of snakes. It has been tyrannical and domineering all these years, but that was not enough for them. Now they want to hurt Yishuin. Do not think that I don't know. It was the Luo clan that stirred up trouble first. It deserves to be punished. It is simply like a cancer, deeply rooted in our Yuan school, and must be cut off once and forever." The penalty elder said in a cold voice, "You old thing, I am not the one who is confused, but it's actually you who is not aware of things. He has continued to secretly massacre the disciples of our sect, and you don't even know about all this." Tian Wushuang said with killing, intent flashing in his eyes. He had stood alongside Luo clan and blatantly supported the banner of Luo clan in Yuan school for so many years and held deep relationship with them. How could he take it lightly when Luo clan was being accused in front of him? "Do you have evidence?" The penalty elder said in a superficial manner, but disciples of Yuan school had spotted Luo Yifan intercepting Yishuin, and this is conclusive evidence. Such a guy must be punished. Otherwise, where's the dignity of the laws of our Yuan school? "You old thing, you think that I do not know. You just want to hinder the influence of Chu Jinkai. You know that Luo clan gives full support to him. And now you are using this matter as an excuse to disrupt the influence of Chu Jinkai because you are a supporter of Huang Luochen." Tian Wushuang pointed his finger at the penalty elder and said in an unrestrained manner. Other elders did not say anything, because the matter involved two of the four strongest true disciples. These so-called four strongest true disciples were referred to as Chu Jinkai, Huang Luochen, Shui Yanluo, and Qi Fifan. Although all of the true disciples were basically eligible to compete for the position of the head, but there were so many people competing for just one position, so it was obvious that not just anyone could become a head. So only a small portion of true disciples who really possessed the ability, strength, and influence were able to compete for the position of the head. And in this generation of disciples, there were the so-called four strongest true disciples. All of them were extremely strong and had already entered half-step into the legendary realm. So basically, they were only one small step away from stepping into the legendary realm and become invincible masters. Even among the younger generation of disciples throughout the Great Yu State, they were considered among the top. These four individuals had always been considered as people who would most likely become the head someday, and even if not, they could easily become the leaders of strong veins. When these four true disciples would compete for the position of the head, many elders, and even the Taishang elders, all would place their bets in favor of their own favorite candidates. And of course, they won't use spirit stones to place their bets, but their entire being. NT. Entire being means their personal vote. The candidate with clear support would become the head and build his own faction along with these elders and Taishang elders. These elders and Taishang elders had extraordinary influence in the sect, and once they would unequivocally support someone, it would naturally be an enormous boost for him. They would not easily bet, but once they did, that would mean they had really recognized him as the head, and then they would also give full support to him. Because from the moment they bet, their destinies got linked together with the one they bet on. Once they bet in someone's favor in order to help him win the title of head, they actually became his followers and would stay alongside him even if he ended up losing. But if he won, they would also get extraordinary benefits. This Tian Wushuang was actually one of the supporters of Chu Jinkai, and at this time he was not scared to disclose it in front of everyone and directly shouted. Because the entire Luo clan, including Luo Yifan, was actually the supporter of Chu Jinkai, and their motive was understandable since none of their own members could compete for the position of head. Although the ability and wisdom of Luo Yifan were quite good, but his strength was still far behind that of the four strongest true disciples. Not to say he lacked talent as well as strength when compared to them. The strength of these four disciples was almost comparable to that of the Taishang elders. Luo clan was aware of this, so it decided to give full support to Chu Jinkai. All of these four true disciples were not ordinary people. Following them naturally meant getting a lot of benefits. Luo clan was getting a lot of advantage by supporting Chu Jinkai. During the incident of Hua Menghan, Head was extremely angry that Luo clan had actually dared to attack his closing disciple. Wasn't this equivalent to provoking him, the head of an entire sect? Afterward, Chu Jinkai personally went into action and finally settled this matter, although he had to pay a huge price, but Luo clan was saved thanks to him. The penalty elder was a supporter of Huang Luochen, so at this time he was accusing Luo Yifan, just to chop off one of the supporting arms of Chu Jinkai. Everyone was aware of what was going on between these two elders, but they were unwilling to interfere, especially those who supported the other two disciples. They simply planned to stay on the sidelines and silently watch this scene. To be continued. Chapter 160. NT. This is a regular chapter. I will release sponsored chapters 161 and 162 on Tuesday, depending on the queue. Chapter 160, Senior Yi. Everyone looked at Wu Patian. They did not know what he was thinking. After all, he was the head and sole ruler of Yiyuan School. He could make decisions regarding the matters of Yiyuan School, and even the Taishan elder could not directly interfere with his decisions. Yi Shiwen won't be eradicated. I believe everybody is aware of his talent that can be said as absolutely rare. Our Yiyuan School needs talented people like him. Not to mention, he has not committed any mistakes. Tian Wushuang, you go tell Luo clan that from now onwards, they're not allowed to intercept Yi Shiwen. Wu Patian said in a calm manner, but his words were like the final decree in the sect, and with this the matter was finally over. Head, this Yi Shiwen is extremely arrogant, and he even ruthlessly kills the people of his own sect, taking his peerless talent into consideration. If we allow him to grow stronger, then he would certainly bring disaster. Tian Wushuang said to validate his point. Then, according to what you said, Luo clan is the biggest evil. They openly murdered one of my disciples. It is an influential clan that openly does evil deeds, and I presume everyone is aware of that. At this time, the criminal law elder suddenly said, well, the matter arrived here, and everyone has shared their opinions and views. It seemed as if Wu Patian didn't want to continue the discussion over this matter and continued to say, Yi Shiwen came out from the mysterious space present in the depths of Yiyuan School and was flying through the void. It seemed like he was treading on a rainbow. He did not know that the matter related to him was being discussed in a special conference of elders. Although he had said that he would go the elders' council, but later, he had to go meet the founder of Qingfeng Mountain Vein. Yi Shiwen didn't know how Luo Yifan would put this matter in front of everyone, though it was him who had violated the rules of sect and openly intercepted Yi Shiwen in front of many witnesses. But Luo Yifan had been unable to hurt him. So, even if he is convicted for intercepting Yi Shiwen, he would receive small punishment. Yi Shiwen, don't expect that Yiyuan School would give you justice. I tell you, don't keep your hopes high. Yi Emo appeared on his shoulder and said, I think that Luo Yifan is an absolutely petty guy. If you do not look for him, he will look for opportunities to deal with you. You mean strike first and gain the upper hand? Yi Shiwen asked and narrowed his eyes. People who were familiar with him knew very well that when Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes, it often meant that his heart was overflowing with killing intention. NT. Xianxia Shou Wei Qiang. Strike first and gain the upper hand. Idiom used in martial arts. Yes, this world is like that. Counting on others is pointless. You must strike first and gain the upper hand. If he can look for you in order to intercept you, why cannot you? Yi Mo said, you humans do not pay attention to the fact that proper behavior is based on reciprocity. If you don't return the favor now, when will you? NT. Li Shangwang Lai. Proper behavior is based on reciprocity, idiom. But Luo Yifan is now at the gathering place of Luo clan. Attacking him there may be a bad idea. Yi Shiwen said, he cannot stay there for a lifetime. Sooner or later we will find his trail, and then you can cut weeds and eliminate the roots. Yi Mo said and smiled. The smile really complimented his small stature, made him look sort of sly but cute. NT. Zhan Sao Chugan. To cut weeds and eliminate the roots, idiom. Yi Shiwen knew that Yi Mo was right. At this time, he would easily succeed in intercepting and killing Luo Yifan. Anyway, he was not going to patch up with Luo clan, and neither would they let him off. He could say for sure that right now, Luo Yifan was certainly plotting against him somewhere. It could be said that Luo Yifan was really a big source of trouble, and if not resolved quickly, then perhaps it would lead to many major problems in the future. Besides killing Luo Yifan, the most urgent task is to practice and have a breakthrough into the truth realm as soon as possible. So long as you can step into the truth realm, then that Luo Yifan will certainly not be your opponent, and it won't even take few moves to behead him. Yi Mo said, Masha territory should be a very good place to hone my skills. Unfortunately at present, I'm just an inner disciple, and I don't have the privilege to go inside. Yi Shiwen said, originally, Yi Shiwen intended to first focus on having a breakthrough and directly stepping into the truth realm to become a true disciple. And after becoming a true disciple, he could freely access Masha territory. At that time, he could find those truth-level devils and behead them. In that case, Yi Shiwen should be able to quickly enhance his cultivation in the truth realm, and his fighting strength would become comparable with the masters of truth second stage, and he might even be able to behead them. In fact, he would also be able to easily fight with a truth third stage master like Elder Jingxian and suppress him during the fight. At present, Yi Zaiwen's fighting strength was comparable to the strength of truth-level masters. But if he could break into the truth realm, then there would be a tremendous enhancement in his strength. But whether it was Lin Zhantian or the founder of Qingfeng Mountain Vein, they all felt that for now, Yi Shiwen should not step into the truth realm. Moreover, the sect was also hoping that Yi Shiwen shouldn't step into the truth realm for the time being. And the reason was simple. Yi Shiwen was going to participate in the competition among 5 major forces of Great Yu State. And to put it bluntly, in this gathering of major forces, a mutual show of strength was going to take place. The true disciples of these 5 forces would be coming from all around to participate in the contest, and they would ultimately determine each other's strength. There was also an old rule that the 5 forces must show mutual restraint and try not to create a situation that might lead to eruption of a large-scale tangled warfare. This competition was only a way to ascertain each other's strength. So each force would try to bring its strongest disciples to show off its strength in front of others. Yi Shiwen joined the main sect, and in a short time his fighting strength enhanced dramatically and reached all the way up to the truth realm, which also gave him a chance to represent Yi Yuan School in the upcoming competition, and he was formidable enough to easily sweep away the disciples of inner and core rank like it was nothing. So in the competition, Yi Yuan School would gain a big face in front of other forces thanks to him. At that time, the sect would give large-scale incentives and rewards to him. But if Yi Shiwen had a breakthrough and stepped into the truth realm, then he would no longer be regarded as an inner disciple. He would become a true disciple and would also have to fight with true disciples in the competition. In short, he would no longer be the outstanding existence anymore. He would only be a bottom-level true disciple. There was no doubt that it was good for him to wait for now. But for Yi Shiwen, it could have been a rapid increase of strength in a short period because he could easily face those truth-level devils with the help of the suppression of Tianyuan Mirror, and he could also challenge several devil masters. Masha territory was definitely a good place to practice, but he couldn't go there. And most importantly, Yi Shiwen had already consumed almost all of the spirit stones from the stock in his storage ring, leaving only a meager amount of 1,000 spirit stones. And in addition to that, his cultivation had already increased to such an extent that he was going to require a massive amount of spirit stones. Now, he needed top-grade spirit stones to withstand the high rate of consumption. However, the sect distributed top-grade spirit stones only to the true disciples, and that too once in a month. Moreover, the missions could also reward top-grade spirit stones. But these missions were generally top-ranked and were only meant for true disciples, because they were often very dangerous and non-truth level disciples would simply die on these missions. So these extremely dangerous missions used to have strength requirements. Yi Shiwen was caught in a deadlock, and only after participating in this competition and coming back from there, he would be able to step into the truth realm and break free from this deadlock. However, as far as Yi Shiwen was concerned, it could be said that within this period of time he actually had no means to rapidly increase his strength. Just like the main goal of Hotian masters was to strengthen the body and for Xiantian masters, it was to transform Zhenyuan. The main goal of truth-level masters was to interact with the world Lingqi, and a truth-level master could achieve resonance with the world Lingqi by increasing their perception of the world. In other words, the truth realm focused more on accumulation of understanding of the world. For the martial arts practitioners, the body and the understanding of heavenly laws were two indispensable parts in their practice. The body carried soul, and the world of martial arts practice was like a vast sea. The soul must cross the sea. The body was like a ship, and if the ship was sturdy and tough, there would be a higher possibility of crossing the sea. The Hotian realm and Xiantian realm could only be regarded as initial preparations for beginning the journey to cross the sea. There was shipbuilding and reinforcement until the martial artist reached the truth realm. After stepping into the truth realm, the person would learn swimming, reading nautical chart, sailing a ship, and many other necessary tasks that might be required during the journey. Legendary realm was the real start of the journey. Yi Shiwen had already completed the accumulation of Hotian and Xiantian realm. Afterwards, he had also gained some of the initial perception of the heavenly laws. But at this stage, the mysterious space would display a greater ability, because so long as there were enough spirit stones, he would be able to comprehend heavenly laws inside the mysterious space, and then his fighting strength would be far more than others. He would become 10 times or even 100 times stronger than others. At this stage, Yi Shiwen had the advantage and could become far more stronger compared to others in a short time. But unfortunately, at the most critical time, he did not have spirit stones. For Yi Shiwen, it was like his ship ran out of fuel, and now he could only go forward at the speed of a sailing ship. However, he didn't have an option because, 1 month later, he must go to the Qianji Island, located in the East China Sea, and participate in the gathering of warriors. Thinking too much was pointless, Yi Shiwen left the depths of Yi Yuan School and went straight towards the station of Qianyu faction. But he never thought that at this time the Qianyu courtyard looked just like a busy city marketplace, and was no longer an infrequently visited place, as it used to be. A crowd of many inner disciples and core disciples had gathered outside the gate of Qianyu faction station, and they were trying to squeeze inside. Even the outer disciples were simply looking at the crowd of these inner and core disciples with envious looks in their eyes. Yi Shiwen took a quick look and saw 2 senior disciples standing as gatekeepers at the gate of Qianyu faction, maintaining order, while at this time the new disciples had dignified appearances and there were proud looks on their faces as they were looking at the crowd of inner and core disciples. What was going on? Yi Shiwen felt somewhat strange and descended down on a rainbow light. At this time, many disciples saw him and stepped aside to make way for him, while praising out loud, "Senior Yi!" At this time, even the senior disciples, who had higher ranks, did not dare to pull rank in front of Yi Shiwen and respectfully called him Senior Yi. To be continued. Chapter 161. NT. This is Wednesday's regular release. Enjoy! Chapter 161. Crazy Shark 13 Pirates, Senior Yi. The voices of greeting started coming continuously that caused Yi Shiwen to feel somewhat confused. He asked the 2 disciples guarding the entrance of Qianyu faction station and found out that the news about him almost beheading Luo Yifan in a battle had suddenly spread throughout Yi Yuan School. Yi Shiwen went to meet the founder of Qingfeng Mountain Vein and came back late, but after coming back he found out that the entire Yi Yuan School already knew about this news. This news had stirred the entire Yi Yuan School. This was simply a miracle, like a myth, especially for those who didn't acknowledge Yi Shiwen earlier and did not believe that he participated in the Inner Seed Disciples competition and also won the title of chief. And that was not all. The Qianyu faction that used to be an unknown faction and was in a constant danger of being exterminated by senior factions at any time was no longer the same. Yi Shiwen almost beheaded Luo Yifan in Masha territory. When the news spread across Yi Yuan School, it caused an enormous sensation and everyone was discussing this matter. Many people were shocked and weren't ready to believe, but when the Inner Seed Disciples and Core Seed Disciples came back from Masha territory, they collectively stated that they witnessed the battle between Yi Shiwen and Luo Yifan with their own eyes, and it was actually Luo Yifan who was being suppressed. If an elder had not suddenly interfered, then perhaps Luo Yifan would have been beheaded by Yi Xuan. This finally convinced everyone, because one person might be wrong, but when so many people were collectively and decisively stating the same thing, and all of them were the elites of Yuan school. So the news couldn't possibly be false, or maybe they were bored and had come together to play a joke on everyone, and were actually just screwing around with them. With respect to this possibility, everyone might as well believe Yi Xuan had already defeated Luo Yifan. Not to mention they would have soon discovered, because when facing such rumors in the past, Luo clan would quickly resolve the situation and wouldn't allow the news to spread. So it seemed as if such a thing really happened. And it actually affirmed this matter. Countless people were still in shock. While there were many smart people who already came into action and had arrived in abundance at the station of Qianyu faction, some are here to see Shiwen and witness his true capacity. Some are hoping to join the Qianyu faction in order to exploit its connections and new influence, trying to get close to the original members of the faction, of course. Some of them were actually the spies of major factions and had come to keep a constant watch on the current situation of Qianyu faction, hoping to see something. And now that Yi Xuan was finally back, he could confirm whether this news was real or hoax. However, when they saw the elegant figure of Yi Xuan walking on a divine rainbow, they immediately knew that their guess was correct, because only true disciples could have such magical powers, and this was the power desired by numerous disciples, the so-called flight. After seeing this, even those who had been skeptical about this news all this time had no other option but to believe in it. But they also thought that perhaps Yi Xuan was already a master of the truth realm, and it could be confirmed from just seeing him flying freely and effortlessly. The chances of Yi Xuan being a true disciple suddenly attracted the attention of many disciples. Ignoring all those who were trying to get close to him, Yi Xuan strode straight into the entrance of the station of Qianyu faction. And even after finding out that the news had spread, he was very calm, as if this was normal. In fact, in this world advocated by strength, strong people always obtain such treatment, not to mention, in their eyes, Yi Xuan was already a true disciple of Yuan school, and there were only few hundred true disciples. Not to forget that Yi Xuan was very young and was still able to step into the truth realm, which meant that his future prospects were limitless. There were a lot of people who thought that Yi Xuan might actually be able to reach the level of the 4 invincible true disciples of Yuan school. His future growth was simply unlimited. Unless it was absolutely necessary, a lot of people did not want to offend him. Earlier, it did not matter, because Yi Xuan was an ordinary master of the Xiantian realm, although he was still considered strong by most people. But in the eyes of the stronger ones, he was just an ant in the group of ants, nothing but a quite formidable ant. But now it was not the same. After achieving the strength of the truth realm, Yi Xuan definitely had the qualifications to be treated as their equal. Yi Xuan went halfway and saw a welcome message hanging over the main building of Qianyu faction. "Little brother, you really are okay." A figure suddenly leapt up and fiercely patted on the shoulders of Yi Xuan. And Yi Xuan immediately cracked open his mouth to give a forced smile. At this time, Yan Chiling and the others looked at Yi Xuan with baffled looks in their eyes, even Yi Feng, although he wasn't so battled as others, because even if Yi Xuan changed a lot, he was still his little brother, but this time he didn't see him like a child, rather as someone on an equal status, and greeted him from far away with a wide smile on his face. However, the one who could dare to be so slapstick with Yi Xuan was his one and only sister, Yi Ruxiue. Perhaps in her heart, regardless of how powerful he had become, she still held his impression as her little brother. "Now the entire Yuan school is talking about you and how you fought with that Luo Yifan and almost defeated him," Yi Ruxiue said in a very excited manner. Yi Xuan was such a hotshot, and she was truly proud of it. When people confirmed that the rumor was true, after saying few words to Yi Xuan, they stayed for a while, then started to leave, and soon only Yi Xuan and Yi Feng, the 2 brothers, remained in the room. "You are in the limelight, but you have also become a target of public criticism, and I am afraid that soon Yuan school will start keeping an eye on you," Yi Feng said in a somewhat worried voice. He was not a cheerful person like Yi Ruxue, who had a blind faith on the strength of Yi Xuan. Yi Feng was the eldest among them. He just couldn't help but worry about his younger siblings. He certainly wanted to do things to help them and always be there for them. Keeping an eye is fine. What else can they do anyway? Yi Xuan sneered. If they intend to use their evil plans behind the scenes, then I am not a weakling either. What do you plan to do about this Luo case? I don't think that they plan to let go. Yi Xuan was already aware of this, but even Yi Feng was able to make a correct guess. One could see that everyone was aware of the domineering arrogance of Luo clan. Rest assured, I am not afraid of Luo clan. Yi Xuan said, I was more afraid that they will come for you. That issue was bigger. After all, Yi Xuan now possessed the strength comparable to the true disciples of the first stage of Truth Realm, and it could be said that now he had the power to protect himself. But Yi Feng was very weak compared to him, and Yi Xuan could not allow him to go against the Luo clan. Rest assured, we will not have any problem. We are not weaklings, and our ancestor would be protecting us, so we don't need to worry. Yi Feng said with a smile. He was talking about Lin Zhantian. As long as an elder like him was around to protect them, there really was no need to worry about anything. After all, behind Lin Zhantian, there was a hidden, huge influence of the Qingfeng mountain vein. Thinking of this, Yi Xuan was not worried anymore. After chatting with Yi Feng for a while, Yi Xuan also returned to his room and began the closed-door training. It could be said that he learned a lot of things in Masha territory and needed time to slowly comprehend and sense them. Although he lacked spirit stones, making his sensibility much slower, but he was still faster than a lot of people. A day passed in a blink of an eye, and the sensibility of Yi Xuan precipitated by a significant amount. However, Yi Xuan did not continue the closed-door training, because he obtained the news that Luo Yifan finally came out and was no longer hiding in the residence of Luo clan. The news was that he picked up a mission and went to the East China Sea to destroy the nest of Crazy Shark 13 pirates. This group, called Crazy Shark 13 Pirates, was quite infamous among the several pirate groups active in the East China Sea because they were very strong. The reputation of Crazy Shark 13 Pirates was bad, and they were so infamous because their group, composed of 13 brothers, all with different surnames, their boss was actually a truth-level master, while the other 12 were at the Xiantian 9th peak. They were very strong, and an ordinary expert wouldn't survive in front of their combined strength. They were hard to deal with and had been stirring up trouble in the East China Sea. Many people had long wanted to exterminate them, but they weren't strong enough for the job. These pirates were rampaging for so many years, and finally, someone sent a request to Yiyuan School for the extermination of these pirates. And Luo Yifan was intending to pick up this task. He wanted to stay away from the sect and lie low, because after his fight with Yi Xuan, he was facing quite a lot of accusations, many of which were from the elders. So he had to immediately come out from hiding, and he decided to take the mission to exterminate Crazy Shark 13 pirates. This news was quite secretive, but still reached Yi Xuan. If it was before, not even a bit of this news would have fallen into the hands of Yi Xuan. But after achieving a large-scale promotion in strength in the eyes of many people, Yi Xuan had become a character of great importance, and a lot of people were happy to tell this news to him in exchange for his goodwill. And among them, there were many enemies of Luo clan as well, who wanted Yi Xuan to get rid of an influential Luo clan's member like Luo Yifan. But Yi Xuan did not mind. After all, the key point was to get rid of Luo Yifan. It could be considered as getting rid of a latent danger, although Luo clan was a very big threat. But as far as Yi Xuan was concerned, he planned to break them bit by bit. After getting the news, Yi Xuan quietly tidied up to prepare for the journey, although he wanted to kill Luo Yifan. But he also did not want to get caught while launching a full-scale attack on him. Luo Yifan was an arrogant man, but when he started facing the accusations from those elders, he had to go out and lie low, but they might be keeping an eye on him. While doing this kind of thing, he needed to be careful. Moreover, Qinji Island was located in the East China Sea, so Yi Xuan went to the Merit Palace to take the map for it, and after that he did not wait any longer and flew towards the East China Sea. To be continued. Chapter 162. NT. This is Friday's regular chapter. Enjoy. Chapter 162. Deepwater Black, Serpent, the Great East China Sea, was simply endless. It was difficult to see the end. And on the high altitude, Yi Xuan was treading the rainbow light and was turning the map in his hands, while using Zhanyuan protection cover to not get disheveled by the strong winds. This Great East China Sea was boundless, and only a distance of about 10,000 li came under the known scope of Great Yu State, although the influence of Great Yu State was extended in a range of a few thousand li. But Yi Xuan obtained quite a complete nautical chart from Yi Yuan School that had mapped about 1 million square kilometers of area near the seacoast. It could be said that the scope of the East China Sea, known to Great Yu State, was in fact nothing but the tip of an iceberg. The vastness of Great East China Sea could be imagined, and Yi Xuan spent hundreds of sprit stones for this nautical chart. However, it also showed the position of the stronghold of Crazy Shark 13 pirates, which was perhaps a hard-to-find secret for an average person. But for a monster like Yi Yuan School, it was easily worth nothing. After all, for average people, masters of the truth realm were indeed like human gods, simply unattainable, but for Yi Yuan School, they were just like the Tolstoy deal with trouble. Therefore, it actually saved him a lot of effort, and he did not specifically have to look for the whereabouts of Luo Yifan. He just directly went in the direction of the stronghold of Crazy Shark 13 pirates. The salty sea breeze brushed again Yi Zaiwen's face. He narrowed his eyes, then immediately covered his whole body with Zhenyuan, so that even at such a fast speed, the blowing sea breeze seemed comfortable to his body. This East China Sea is really too big, Yi Xuan said with emotion. This is nothing. Yi Mo disdainfully curled his lip and said, The greatest is the sea of stars. Each star is separated from other by an unimaginable distance, far more than what you can ever imagine. If an average resident of Zhanwu Jie was told about the distance between the stars, it would be like casting pearls before a swine. But Yi Xuan was naturally not the same and already knew about this. NT? Info for forgetful readers. Yi Xuan was a university student from modern Earth. But his memories got mixed up with this world's weakling Yi Xuan, and they both kind of discarded their own separate personalities and decided to form a new identity and become OP to be able to protect family and friends. In the first 100 chapters, Yi Zaiwen's only goal was to become OP. Now he has side goal of crushing Luo Yifan and Luo clan. MGS has 3,290 chapters and ongoing. We are currently at 9% of the story. According to the appendix on East China Sea map, there are many forces in this region. In addition to those pirates, there are many scattered martial sects, although they cannot be compared to Yi Yuan School and other several major forces. But all have their own characteristics, not to mention, in the depths of the East China Sea, there are a lot of unusually formidable sections. It is said that there are many sects among them which are not weaker than Yi Yuan School, and many tyrannical sects are thriving on huge, continent-like islands. Yi Xuan said, and not just these tyrannical forces. In this sea there are lots of demon beasts as well. In short, there were many who refused to accept the laws of the land. In this sea, elixirs and heavenly treasures are endless, so the might of these demon beasts and martial sects is tyrannical. Yi Xuan said, It also has many submarine-based spiritual pulses, and their quality is much higher compared to the quality of spiritual pulses on the land. But various demon beasts are lurking near the seabed, and it's a pity that your strength is not enough to deal with them. Otherwise, you could go there and conveniently plunder the spirit stones from those demon beasts. Yi Mo said, The demon beasts of Xiantian level had remarkable wisdom, but it could be said that there was really not much difference between truth-level demon beasts and humans. The truth-level demon beasts even used to organize armies consisting of the Xiantian level demon beasts, carved out their own territory in the sea. They were not one bit weaker than human experts and belonged to a different kind of civilization. Immediately after killing that Luo Yifan, you can practice here for a month. Your cultivation will certainly have a huge improvement. Once you have beheaded Luo Yifan, Completely eradicate all those pirates, and then you can pillage the treasure they have gathered after roaming in the East China Sea for so many years. They must have saved up a lot of treasure, which should also contain many top-grade spirit stones. Just enough for you to start practicing once again. Yi Mo said, "Anyway, Chenji Island was located in the East China Sea, and it would be quite convenient to reach there. It was also better for Yi Shiwen to become much stronger before participating in the competition. Moreover, the pirates of the East China Sea were like a plague. They must be eradicated completely. If not killed, then they would continue to harm innocent people. In addition to that, these pirates had plundered lots of spirit stones and other practice materials. So Yi Shiwen could use these treasures to hone his skills." Yi Shiwen was flying extremely fast and soon left the continent far behind, and it slowly went out of sight. Shwa! Suddenly, a storm appeared in the distance, and speeding, Yi Shiwen entered this storm, when he saw that the weather was turning hostile above the sea. This storm was really too horrifying. Yi Shiwen was finding very hard to resist inside it. The Lingqi was sweeping across so fast and wildly that it could directly crush a warrior of Hotian level. Even Xiantian level warriors would find it hard to maintain a strong foothold in this storm. After Yi Shiwen strengthened the Zhan Yuan cover over his body, he directly dived into the sea water. Compared to the raging and towering waves and wild winds rushing all the way from the sea surface to the clouds, the entire seabed was very quiet and was not at all unstable, even though there were monstrous waves on the sea surface. However, inside the sea, there simply was no shred of light because of the stormy clouds in the sky and huge depth and massive amount of water over his head. The light couldn't reach so deep inside, and even Yi Shiwen could see only a little. He could only see clearly for a few meters. The distant places inside the silent sea seemed strange and could easily make people feel nervous. Then, abruptly, a fishy smell entered his nostrils and a giant shadow leapt towards Yi Shiwen. The giant shadow opened its big mouth and nipped towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen hastily stepped back in the water. However, his speed was slow compared to his speed on land, although after achieving the strength of Truth Realm or later, one could breathe in the water, walk in the fire. But these were just magical powers, though powerful, but were nothing comparable to the abilities of the genuine denizens of the sea. They didn't use supernatural powers, it was all basic instinct, while for landwalkers, it was obvious to lose their flexibility and speed drastically inside the water. After feeling the presence of that huge shadow, Yi Shiwen suddenly and hastily retreated, delimiting water waves inside the sea, and barely avoided being bitten by that big mouth. Yi Shiwen immediately condensed Jin Yuan in the eyes, and a burst of golden light suddenly flashed in his eyes, increasing his eyesight considerably, and this helped him in seeing clearly compared to earlier. It was almost a 1,000 feet long black python. Its whole body was swarthy, had two huge disc-like eyes that were releasing scarlet rays of light. Yi Shiwen had to hold his breath. This was the so-called deep-water black serpent, and he had read about it in the records. According to the records, deep-water black serpents were a famous race of serpents. There were innumerable deep-water black serpents in the world and could only survive in the depths of the ocean. Their race was considered very horrifying. After all, a newborn deep-water black serpent was already in the Xiantian realm, and after reaching adulthood, they usually became terrifying monsters of the truth level. Inside the sea, their race was considered very tyrannical and domineering. Some deep-water black serpents had the opportunity to swallow heavenly treasures and also had a chance to become water dragon. A water dragon was an extremely terrifying existence and was capable of causing great commotion in a major sect, like Yuan school. Moreover, it seemed as if this deep-water black serpent should have been awakened by the rolling storm above the sea and must have woken up from a deep slumber. Yi Shiwen, this is your rare fortune. This deep-water black serpent's whole body is a treasure. It must have been in the deep sea, perhaps in a very deep slumber. You could never have obtained a chance to see it. You should thank this storm that suddenly appeared and awakened it. Moreover, its body has just crossed the length of 1,000 feet, which indicates that it has reached the adulthood not long ago. and it also means that it has recently entered into the truth realm. Yi Mo said in an excited manner. The strength and adulthood of a deep-water black serpent was directly proportional to the length of its body. After stepping into the truth realm, the length of a deep-water black serpent could reach up to 1,000 feet. After breaking into the second stage of truth realm, its length would be able to reach 2,000 feet. Each time its skill deepened, it would shed skin and its stature increased by 1,000 feet. The most powerful deep-water black serpent almost had a body length of 10,000 feet, and one wouldn't be able to see its entire body in one glance. If Yi Shiwen ever saw a big monster like that, perhaps even he would have to immediately turn away. He was obviously not an opponent of such a monster and would be easily killed in one tail sweep. However, even if this deep-water black serpent had just entered into the truth realm, it would be very hard for an average martial artist to deal with it. Generally speaking, the content of Zhan Yuan inside the body of any living being was always proportional to the size of the body. If the body size was greater, it could store more Zhan Yuan. Humankind generally reached the height of more than a meter, but this deep-water black serpent was full 700 meters long, a total of almost 700 times bigger than an average human, and hence its body contained 700 times more Zhan Yuan. In addition to that, being a demon beast of truth level, its body was much stronger and formidable than that of a human. It was simply not an ordinary tough opponent. Hiss! Hiss! The hissing sound produced by the deep-water black serpent could be heard from afar. It opened its big mouth, revealing its poisonous fangs. White in color and incomparably sharp, if bitten, perhaps it could instantly pierce him to death, which was absolutely terrifying. Demon beasts of truth level already possessed very high intelligence. Yi Shiwen could even see fierce look on its face. Yi Shiwen instantly shot coiling dragon palm. Hidden dragon rises from the abyss. A dragon's roar resounded. His palm transformed into a dragon claw and rushed straight towards the big mouth of that deep-water black serpent. Boom! Yi Shiwen felt as if his arm hit the reinforced concrete. Accompanied by a loud roar and setting off waves in the water, a figure was directly blasted away inside the water. It was actually Yi Shiwen. This deep-water black serpent did not know martial arts. Just by virtue of its solid flesh and terrifyingly strange life force, it was able to beat back the attack of Yi Shiwen. These demon beasts were really quite unique. Ordinary humans simply could not be compared with them. Yi Shiwen couldn't imagine. This deep-water black serpent was so formidable now. If it learnt various martial arts, then it would become much more terrifying. The deep-water mysterious serpent opened its big mouth and gave out a long and loud roar, which turned the seawater into water swords and went lazing toward Yi Shiwen. Each of these water swords was sturdier than a formidable master. They whistled and quickly arrived. To be continued.